And we are live with Matt Arey from Arey Drywall. I have wanted you to come on this podcast since the very first time I saw your work.
Really?
Yeah. I
That's
very
weird.
I don't
Why?
want I know, right? I'm like, ooh, look at this guy. Well, so this is a funny story because I don't want to say rarely, but it is for me to like stumble upon an account like I did yours, look at the work and go, holy shit, I'm not gonna follow this guy because I know him. I'm gonna follow this guy to see what he does. Because
Wow.
I don't know if you remember, but the first couple of posts that you had, I think it was like your eighth follower or something stupid. Like it was right at the beginning.
Y- I know you were my first comment
Yeah, see, that's exactly
on
what
the
I'm
on the
saying.
the first video that I did. I didn't even know you were supposed to shoot it, in portrait mode,
Yeah.
and that was the last one I did in landscape mode. But yeah,
Yeah.
you were the first comment. I remember that.
Yeah, because the work was phenomenal, and I was like, "Where the fuck did this guy come from?" And then I think like a week after that, I met you in Florida. It wasn't long after that.
Hey, this thing is breaking up.
Oh no,
Yeah, that's rough.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you now.
I was just saying it was shortly after I started following you that we met in Florida, and then you came back for dinner, and it was
Hmm.
like it's because I don't think you were on your page yet. I think it was just your work.
Yeah, I it was less than a month before Florida that I started that account.
Yeah.
And I had been talking to Aaron, and this is before I even knew he owned Columbia. I just thought he was like a guy that runs their social media. And I asked the question because I was having a problem with an angle head. And he's like, "Yeah, ship it over here, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll ship you a new one in the meantime." And then he started talking kind of as if he had some authority. And I was like, "Wait a second, what is your position at Columbia?" He's like, "Oh, me and my brother own it." And I'm like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing on Instagram just talking to random people?" He's like, "Oh, I just try to, make myself available to help everybody out."
Hmm.
And we talked for a little while after that. And he's like, "Yeah, come on down to this thing and come out to dinner with us." And super cool. And that's where it all started. I met you and Danny and, of course, Cam and, Brad and what's his name? Frank, CSR.
Frank. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple other people, and I had a great time, man. It's the first time I did anything like that, and it was awesome.
That was the first time that Frank got dragged into one of those houses. So he's usually somebody that's a little more pushed back, right? Where he's like,
Hmm.
this isn't really my scene. So we weren't sure how it
Hmm.
was going to go. And like the feedback that we got was like, that was the best time ever. It's like, yeah, dude, that's why we do
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, and I met so many people at that thing that I had been following because I had Instagram for a while, a different account, and I just kind of watched stuff. I
Hmm.
never commented on anything. I never posted any videos. It was just a dead account, and a lot of people that I had known from watching there, they were walking around. I talked to them, asking them questions, and now it's like I made all these friends that I keep in contact with, and it's super cool community.
It's pretty dope, man. And like
It is.
the everybody's welcome vibe is really cool.
Hmm.
Like, because that's grown in the last whatever year and a half for sure. Like, I know that it was there, but it wasn't as focused on, I don't think. Like,
Hmm.
like Black Friday was dope.
Hmm.
We had
I
like,
wish I could have gone to that, man.
I know, man. Yeah,
Next
it's,
year.
and that's the thing is like you miss one and the next one comes. Like, there's always
Hmm.
stuff that happens.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was wild having everybody in the same spot and they're all your homies. Like everybody that you're seeing is giving you a big hug. And, it's so great to meet you in person. A lot of these people I've met in person, but like for somebody that
Right,
hasn't,
right.
it was great, man.
Hmm.
It's always a good time.
I remember watching on that day at Black Friday, my whole feed was just pictures from everybody that I follow. And I looked and I'm like, I am literally the only one not at this thing. But next year.
Yeah, we tried to get Josh down. We tried to get Corey down. Like there was a bunch of people that I was like pushing real hard. And it's,
Hmm.
but I mean, you're taking better part of a week because you're going to want to get here. You're going to want to decompress. Then you got the event. Nobody wants to go home the day after an event, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah, so it's a commitment for sure. You got to figure out where you're staying. You got to figure out how much it's going to cost you to come, how much you're going to lose for coming. Like it's a
Hmm.
big thing, man. So
Hmm.
I mean, next year will be dope. It'll
But
be just
I didn't know that all these people were going down there until, I just thought it was a, I've only been shopping at CSR for like a year. I
hmm
used to use a different company. And when I found out, about them and, Brad at Orlando cooked me up that steak and everything. So I figured, I gotta start supporting these guys. And so I just thought this was a sale. I didn't know it was going to be like this whole massive, everybody's flying in, whatever. And as soon as I saw all these people registered to attend and everything, and I looked at flights and looked at hotel and everything. It was just too close to another trip we had coming up that I.
hmm
But I'll be in Charlotte uh, for the Build show again
Nice.
this March,
Yep.
April,
Yeah,
whenever that is.
I think it's the end of March. If it's the same time every year, it's there for my birthday.
Yeah, well, it's my wife's birthday, April 2nd, and
Okay.
I told her, I'm like, hey, I know we went to Orlando to do this drywall thing last year. Mind if we do another one on your birthday this year? She's like, just make sure we can, go out to dinner or something. So we'll spend about a week there. Probably it's only 5 hours away from me, so we're just gonna drive there.
Nice. Um,
And
I think
yeah,
Charlotte is South Carolina, right?
yep.
Yeah, so I went down there for a Columbia thing last year. This year. Yeah. And it's beautiful, man. If you stuck around like
Hmm.
out on the coast there, they've got
Hmm.
nice little spots, man. Real nice restaurants. It's a good
Hmm.
place.
Hmm.
Yeah, you just got to pitch it as, where's really romantic? South Carolina. Right over at the
No,
end of March.
we've been there many times and have friends that are on the route. So we're gonna make like a week out of it and take the RV out there and stop and visit some friends along the way. But that what was it, a hurricane or
hmm
some storm that happened a couple months ago blew out like both of the interstates that go there from where I am.
Oh shit.
So yeah, I think the route I have to take to get there adds like 3 or 4 hours onto my trip because they don't expect those highways to be open until like the summer or later than that or something, but I'll figure it out. I mean, I got the time blocked off. I know I'm going, so
Dope.
and you're definitely going, right? So that'll be good.
Yeah, I think the plan is that the Predator mobile, the rig. I think Caden's gonna hop in that thing and drive from BC down through making little stops and like stopping in at customers and people's places on the way. And
Hmm.
then at some point, I'm gonna fly in and catch up with him, and then we're gonna drive to the show. And then
Hmm.
the show will be the
Well,
end
dude,
of the
fly
trip.
into Nashville, man.
Yeah.
If I remember Aaron saying he might make that. This was months ago. He might make Charlotte like the end of the Columbia tour
Yep.
or something. Because I'm going to go to that show with my RV as well. So, uh, yeah, that'll be cool to see that thing.
The idea behind that is that like we've always gone to these things and we've set up booths. And
Hmm.
the booth is cool, man. Like it takes 2 minutes to set up or whatever. But I think the idea this time is that the booth will be the rig. So
Outside, or are you going to
no
bring it in?
inside. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
So the only thing
You're
that
going to
I
steal the show, man.
no,
That's awesome.
we did that last year, a bunch of like lame booths. Like Tape Tech had all their new trowels and stuff, and they had the drywall chicks
Hmm.
there. Like it was a pretty happening booth too, but I mean, those shows are not as wild as what I would have expected. Like when I went down to
Right.
Vegas, I figured it was going to be crazy, and it's like a trade show. So that year was pretty cool, but I mean, last year was dope. We had like a bunch of us down there. And then, going back to the house, like Ernesto ended up coming back to the house. Like it was a good
Oh,
deal,
really?
man. Yeah, so
Yeah,
but I
that's
mean,
awesome.
that's the cool part about the CSR Black Friday thing is it's like we don't have to travel around looking for it. Like it's in our backyard, right? Like why not bring people here? Why not turn it into something here? And
Hmm.
I hope that that continues. I know that it's super expensive. Like you're flying
Oh,
people
it's got to
in,
be.
you're catering, you're, doing all these things, setting up demos, like all of
Not
that
only that,
kind of
but all
stuff.
those gift cards they gave away, dude,
Dude,
that was a lot. I couldn't believe how many people.
like if you want to do some
That's they.
like real basic math, I think they got food for 500 people, which in my mind would think that they had buckets enough for 500 people. And each
Hmm.
bucket's $5, and then you got a shirt in there, you got a $25 gift card. Like you start doing some
Hmm.
math, these things are big money. But it's worth it, right? Like it's if you could turn that into something bigger, like I think we're going to, like that's gonna be dope, man. And then
Well, they had to make their money back and then some because there's a couple people that are affiliates that I've talked to, and they said they just on the commission they did, I mean, massive numbers for Black Friday. So
awesome.
they had to have sold a ton. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
and I think CSR probably would have sold a ton anyways, because it's a Black Friday sale. Like I think I keep going back to this comment where like a lot of the things with my favorite companies don't make sense on paper. Like to have throw an event like that, it doesn't make sense to do, but long term, it really
oh
does.
yeah,
Like same with
oh
all the
yeah.
stuff that Aaron does, like flying people around and getting us all together and like really bringing this community together doesn't make a whole lot of
Hmm.
sense right now on paper, but it does.
But 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, what's he
Totally.
blowing up, trying to blow up Brazil and
Yeah, dude.
yeah.
Brazil's
So
going to
yeah,
be
I mean,
big.
yeah, it's costly, but hey, it'll be big there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's cool shit. So you ran the taper all
It
day.
is.
How big's the site you're running?
It's 200 boards. Uh, it's not massive,
Hmm.
but I hung that house by myself, and it kind of killed my back a little bit. So I'm trying to take it a little easy. I just I ran flats all day. That's it. I didn't bother starting angles. Tomorrow's another day for that, you know. And I'm going on vacation next week, and I'm not going to be able to finish the job before I go. So there's really no reason to push myself.
Yeah.
So the last thing I need is a vacation with a blown out back. So
Well, and if
yeah,
you're,
I'm liking that taper. That's a that's an awesome freaking tool. I've only got about 3 years under it,
yeah,
but every job I get better with it and faster with it and feel more confident with it.
that
I love
mud,
it.
that mud consistency plays such a huge role. I feel like once you get the mud figured out, then you can start to make the taper predictable, where it's like, this is
Hmm.
what I do, these are the movements, then I cut it here. Like it's, you're not thinking about, is it dragging or like, is it going to flush out properly? Like once you start making it predictable, then you can get really good with it. Like it's like you said, 3 years and you're still getting there. Like that's a real timeline, man. Like to figure out a tool like that to be like an extension of your body's got to be 5 years. I would assume. Um, but you take a look at a guy like Danny, right? He's like a 20
Oh,
year
freaking
guy or
beast, man.
whatever.
Yeah.
I think he said when we were at that house recently, I think he said he spotted his first screw at like three, something like that.
Yeah.
Which I mean is pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Um, what were you doing before? Like a slop box, or were you doing a tube?
I did everything by hand for
Really?
almost 20 years.
That's
And
wild.
just a knife and a trowel and a tape reel. That's it.
Yeah.
And it, I got probably, I don't know, maybe 12 years with running a tube and, the roller and the angle head. And I used a mud runner for a lot of years.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but everything else was just knife, trowel, hand tape.
Y-
And when I switched over to the auto tools, completely the boxes and the bazooka and all that, I had nobody to teach me. And everything I learned, 100% of it was all from Instagram Reels.
hmm
All of it. There's nobody around. I work by myself. I got nobody. I think there's two guys in my town that run a bazooka. The rest of them use banjo, which I've never used. And one of those two guys is not a very good finisher anyway. Uh, I just never had the opportunity to see one in person,
Hmm.
never looked at it on a job. I mean, I'm in Tennessee, but I moved here 3.5 years ago from Connecticut. That's where I started. Nobody there uses tools at all.
Crazy.
And so I've never seen one. I just watched them on Instagram. Phil, PRC Taping,
Yep.
him, Brian Drywall Nation. I mean, watched all his how-to videos. Just so many people out there running them, and I'm just watching, eating it up. And that's actually what made me start on Instagram. But you were talking about mud consistency,
Hmm.
and it brought up this thing I remember just recently. I started to switch my consistency because I had been running it super thick,
Okay.
thicker than it probably should be, because I kept dropping mud all over the place. It would
Right.
squeeze out the side of the tape as I'm running. It would fall all over the floor. I'd finish the job, and at the end of the day, I'd look around and I'm like, this place is a mess. There's mud everywhere. So I started making it real thick to try and prevent that. But what ended up happening is I couldn't run so many tapes and then go back and wipe them all because it'd be too thick to wipe. I
Yeah.
wipe them from the floor. So then I took a step back and I'm like, I'm killing myself trying not to drop mud all over the floor, but what the heck does it matter? You know?
Hmm.
So I'm like, screw it. I'm just gonna make it thin, and if mud falls, and it's faster for me to be able to run like a tube and a half or whatever before I go back and wipe. And then at the end of the day, just walk around with a knife and pick up all the mud I drop. So
Yeah.
I spent forever fighting a heavy tube with thick ass mud for no reason. But again, probably would have helped if I had somebody there to show me to
100%.
say, hey, you're mixing that too thick. Put more water in there. Let's go. But
Yeah. Yeah, and I was
that's
saying that
that.
with Josh, like with that thick mud, when you collect it on the end of your tape to kind of slap on the wall to then start running your corner, you've got this like heavy mud pulling that tape off the wall,
Hmm.
right? That like soupy mud almost like sticks it to the wall. I think, man, if you saw the consistency of the mud that I run through that taper, you would tell me I blew it. It's like
Why? What do you mean?
it's like clam chowder. Like it is
Is it really?
water. But I've got
Yeah.
the right mud, right? So I use that yellow certainty. It's like all adhesive, but you water
Hmm.
it down to nothing, and then when it evaporates, it sucks it to the wall, and then what's left there is essentially glue, right? It's
Hmm.
exactly what you want. So I think depending,
Hmm.
like that's just my process. But I mean, I don't know what would happen if you did that with other types of mud or whatever, but I've kind of figured it out, I guess. Like at least for now, I'm sure things will switch. I'd like to figure out who like CGC's version because I like their machine mud way better. Like I use
Hmm.
that
And we
tape.
we don't have any of that stuff.
What are you guys using? Hamilton?
All we have is USG and Proform.
Okay.
But back in Connecticut, we had a Proform that was called Machine Mud.
Yep.
Had an orange top on it. Something just fell. And it was very new to the area, and the vendor was trying to push it. They gave us a bunch, said, "Here, try this out." And
Nice.
I'm like, what is this? What is machine mud? And don't forget, nobody around there is taping with machine tools. So they just said it has more of a like a glue in it, so
Oh,
that, or hold on, actually, no, it's meant to not be watered down as much,
hmm.
because when you water down regular mud, you kind of dilute the adhesive that's in it. So
Right.
this is kind of already watered down, so you don't have to add so much and dilute the glue. But actually, talking about that, you were talking to Josh on the last one, and I caught how you guys were talking about using paper tape with Durabond or with
Hmm.
setting type mud.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is just like something I invented or something that got passed down to me years ago. I don't remember, but I actually add glue to my mud, just Elmer's school glue. I buy big bottles of it, and if I have to paper tape something, because if I use strictly fiberfuse for
Yeah.
all flats. But if I have to use a setting type mud to paper tape angles in like a small job, I just mix up Durban and I just pour glue into it. And
Elmer's glue. No
I have
shit.
I have tested it on little sample boards in the past, and there's definitely a noticeable difference between using just glue and I mean you get bottles of that stuff for a couple dollars. It's
Yeah, they're not much.
and they last you forever. But there are a lot of people out there who recommend not using setting mud with paper because there's no glue in it. But
Right.
that's a workaround, if anybody's curious.
I, I mean, that's my favorite part of this podcast is like, when the hell would you
Is
have
what?
ever said that out loud? You know what I mean? And it
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense because that's exactly what Josh was saying. Because I'll add um like regular mud or
all purpose.
my
Yep.
taping mud or whatever, and it adds the
hmm
adhesive. And I never put that together, but adding glue to it makes a lot of sense.
I'm curious what the manufacturer would say about that because, like I said, I think it's just something I thought of on my own. Because Trimtex used to sell, I don't know if they still do, an additive to, or maybe it wasn't Trimtex. I think it was called Mud Max. I don't know who
Okay.
makes it, but it
Okay.
was an additive you could add into other muds to make it stronger and stick more.
Really?
But it was like a ridiculous price for a gallon or whatever it was. So I'm like, why not just glue?
Yeah.
Tried it and it worked.
Well, you would have found out in a hell of a hurry if it was a bad idea.
No, not really. I mean, I don't know if it would have not. I mean, so what I did was I took some scraps of drywall
Yeah.
and I put some paper tape on it with just Durabond and then with Durabond with the glue added, and I kind of let the tail of the tape stick off of the scrap and I
Okay.
let it sit up, came back the next day and then pulled both of the tabs to see which one would stick better. And this was years ago. I don't remember exactly what happened, but the one with the glue in it was stronger. So that sold me. That's all I need to know.
That's
But
R&D, man.
I don't use it a lot. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, when you say
so
you have all like that you're somewhat new to running the tools and it's all been hand tools, that
mhm.
really comes across. Like the control you have with the mud and the tools, like when you're 30 feet away hitting the bucket. Do you know what I mean? And you're like,
Dude, nobody believes that's a
I'm gonna
straight up
go
real
do it
video.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody believes it.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know how to
but
prove it.
well, you did, and that's in my opinion, you did. But the big part with all of that, at least for me, is like nobody's doing that if they've not put a bunch of time in
Yeah,
on the
but I'm
knives.
taping with a knife and a trowel. I don't have a hawk.
Right.
So like everybody always comments on my videos, like, get a hawk, get a hawk. The Gilbert sisters. I was talking to Allison the other day. Same thing with her. Everybody, just get a hawk, get a hawk, get a hawk. But it's like all these motions that I do, they're just muscle memory.
Hmm.
I don't have to look. I know where the trowel is. I know where that. And because I don't have a hawk, I have to have a bucket somewhere near me.
Right.
But my process is always, if I got a bucket out in the hall on a bake or something, and I got to run into a bathroom on stilts and duck under the header and go in there, I'm not going to walk to the bucket every time I need to do something with the mud. I fling it in the bucket, and just over the years, it's just been that's how I empty the trowel. I
Hmm.
just throw it in the pail, and you do that for 23 years, you learn how to nail them every time.
Yeah.
That's it. But nobody believes it.
I've started doing that a
Not that
lot.
it's an important skill to have, but
No, but
it looks cool.
it for sure looks cool, but it also shows that like mastery of the hand tools, right? And that I don't think that's something that gets shown a lot because I think like the auto tools are sexy and they're like expensive. Not everybody can do it, but like there's a lot of hand tool stuff not everybody can do too, right? And I think once
hmm
you get to a certain point, you get like an appreciation for the basics. And then you're
hmm
like, oh, dude, that was cool, right? Or whatever. And not everybody's gonna love it. It might not go viral, but like the people that appreciate and the people that like, you know, are
hmm
have put the time in, like if you're a painter, a really good painter, and there's somebody that does like chalk work or something where still the
hmm
same thing, it's still art, but it's not your mastery, you appreciate it more because it is in the realm
Yeah.
that you're in.
hmm
Um,
Oh, I get it.
yeah, for sure, man.
But
I'm
there's not a lot of I don't see a lot of people on the different social media platforms that finish with a 6-inch knife and a trowel. I know the Gilberts do.
mhm.
I think there's like one or two other guys that I've seen, but it's so weird to not see more people because where I'm from. that's how everybody finishes drywall.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned. I didn't even know there was hawks until years after I started. I mean, I've seen videos of like plasterers or stucco guys using hawks, but for drywall, it never dawned on me. And then I joined social media, or 20 years later, and I see all these videos, and that there's a lot of good guys with hawks. But
Hmm.
I've kind of wanted to try one. Do you use a hawk ever?
Oh yeah.
You
I've
do.
kind of implemented everything now because that first year, I kind of got myself to the place where it would be acceptable to be on someone else's site. And then I just started being on other people's sites. So it was like I'm not fumbling around with stuff. I've got a pretty basic understanding. I can do my job. And then I went and like worked with Steve from Whitby Drywall, and he is a trowel guy. He runs all the tools.
Hmm.
He's very good at everything, but his mastery is of hawk and trowel. So I always have a
Hmm.
hawk. I always have a trowel. Like you pick things up from different people, the places that you go, and it's like somebody's whole process. It might just be this one little thing. But when you take that
Yeah.
one little thing with you, it's another tool in the
Hmm.
case. So like I have fucking everything and I use it in different ways, right? Like I think the big thing with the hawk and the trowel is the amount of material you can move at once. Like if you've
Right.
got 4.5 or 5 inch trowel and you're scooping half a hawk of mud onto it to get it onto the wall, that's a single movement. Trying to do that with a 6 inch
Hmm.
knife, it'd be 10 movements, to get that
Right. Right.
much
Right.
material on the wall. But when you're doing detail work, good luck doing that with a trowel and a hawk, right? Like it's kind of to each their own for sure. But it's also like, why wouldn't you implement it if it works the best for that specific thing? Um, I've kind of
Right.
stopped that now because I'm boxing my beads way more. Because again, putting
Right.
material on the wall with a box, it's predictable now because it's a box. But you can fill a Fat Boy box up with
I can't get the hang of that.
boxing the beads. It takes it's
No,
strategy.
it depends on the type of bead you're using. I mean, I use the fast edge beads,
Yep.
and my blade just seems to scrape those
Well, just tears the shit out of it.
the
Yeah.
edge because of the paint. So what I ended up doing, I've played around with it a little bit, is just keeping it kind of inside,
Mm-hmm.
and then just wiping it with the trowel after I box it.
Yep.
But I mean, at that point, my beads I don't do until after I'm done with all of the flats. So usually at that point, I pack up the box and I just go around and trowel it anyway. I mean, it looks nicer with the box.
Mm-hmm.
It looks super straight, consistent. Looks like perfect Instagram photo, right? But it, I just can't get the hang of it.
My my
But
big
that's me.
my big thing with implementing the boxes is that it's predictable. Like I don't know, going on 3 years, you know what I mean? Realistically. So
Dude, that
there
blows my mind,
isn't it
by the way.
fucked? It's crazy.
Because
It's
I
cra
remember asking you all these questions all the time about doing this or using this tool or using that. And then you had said to me one time, "Oh yeah, I've been doing this for 3 years." I'm like, "What? You've only been finishing drywall for 3 years? What the hell am I asking you advice for?"
I
You
laughed
remember that?
I laughed right out loud when you said that because it was just like we're having this like real technical conversation, and then you're like, the
Yeah.
fuck am I asking you for?
Yeah, because I was like, "What number do you put it on? How much?" I think it was the 5.5 inch box. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I just mean I don't have 20 years behind me of like creating predictability, right? I've
Hmm.
only got a short span of like understanding things. So when I'm sending mud through a box, I know what it is. Like I
Hmm.
understand when I put the mud there, this is what it's going to do. I can like create a strategy around placing mud with a box as opposed
Hmm.
to like fumbling through it with a trowel and then coming back and going, fuck, that's hollow right here,
Hmm.
or whatever, right? So with a box, the more I can implement that, the more I'm comfortable with it, the faster you get, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth, right? But if you learned with a hawk and trowel, it's probably the same thing. You pick up a box and maybe you're fumbly with that as opposed to me with a hawk and trowel. Like it's just the process of it all. And I don't know, like you're when I get into some of these sites that are like 8,000 board feet and I'm doing them by myself and I'm trying to get it done in like a week, I don't know how I could do that without the boxes. Like I just don't have that muscle memory of like push, cut, cut, push, cut, cut, right? Like it's just not muscle memory to me.
Hmm.
Running that box is, and then one of the other things that you're doing with a trowel is like here's your bevel, and then if you've got a high or a low spot right after your first coat, you can see it, and then you just
Hmm.
adjust with your trowel because it's what you're used to. So with a box, you've
Hmm.
then got to learn how to adjust it, and it's a process, right? Getting to like I keep saying, running the tools, kind of anybody can take it out of the box, figure out the mud consistency, and get it on the wall. But it's that
Pretty quickly.
it, pretty quick, and I mean faster than picking up a trowel and figuring it out.
Just the box though,
Yes,
because you're not taking a bazooka out of a box and figuring that out quick.
no, you're figuring out how to jam it pretty quick. I'll tell you
You're figuring out you want to
that.
throw it out of the window quick. That's
Yeah.
quick. Yeah,
It,
the box is quick to learn.
Yeah, and I mean, even the angle box, like it's those tools are predictable because they're jigs. Like it from point A to point B, this is what it does if you set it on this, and so on and so forth, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's interesting, and I feel like I've got that trowel. Every single butt joint that I do, I split it so that the tape's down the middle. I do a 12 on either side on like a two, and then I come down the center and then either side of that. So I've now created a hill. Like I'm going from point to point of the hills, right?
Hmm.
And then that's how you're creating your
Hmm.
your coat. But on my last coat, I always trowel it. I get it on there and I pull it off
Hmm.
tight. Where all I'm doing there is filling in all the little pieces that weren't filled in yet. And I couldn't do that with anything else, even a tomahawk for that matter, because you're going from here to here. You don't have a 12-inch trowel that you are in control of what's going on. And I think a big part of that too is just trying to get some more time on the trowel, like really understanding how to use it.
You know, I don't think there's any two people that do butt joints the same exact way. I mean, I've tried them all, and boxing butt joints was the last thing that I started to do because even when I had a couple years of running boxes, I was still troweling the butts, and I'm not happy with any of the ways that I do them.
Hmm.
And to be honest, the way that I did butt joints for many years was an 18-inch trowel,
Okay.
and doubled it up on the first coat, and then a 16-inch curve down the middle on the second coat. Two coats, that's it,
Yeah.
done. And boxing, I'm like splitting this, and then I always got to change the handle before I do this because I can't reach the. I'm like you, I use the shorty for everything,
Hmm.
and then I got to wait for it to dry and then go down the middle with this box, and then it's too wet, and the wheels are leaving marks, and this and this, and I'm just not happy with box and butts. I mean, it's just so much faster and less coats to just trowel it. So, but I know I got to learn it. So every job, I'm boxing butts out. I know
Hmm.
I can do it faster and better with a trowel, but I got to learn how to do it with the box because everybody else is doing it with a box. It looks mint, right?
Hmm.
I'm not super. I've rolled the mud on, used the tomahawk. I've done it a million ways, and I don't know. I think the problem is my mud is soft,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
no matter how dry the joint is the next day, I'm still getting wheel marks down the center. So my last coat is a 14 down each side,
Okay.
but I'm still getting marks, you know. And I
Like
just got to go back and fill them.
in your previous coat, you mean?
Yeah, when I run the 14 box for a finish down both sides, that's how I do the finish coat. The
Yeah.
wheels are leaving marks in the middle because it's +3 mud. It's really soft.
Right.
And so then after I finish the butt joint, I'm not done yet. I still got to go back in and fill wheel marks.
Yeah.
And I have seen people tell me just use the brake, leave the wheels off,
Yep.
do it that way. But then my box just gets caked in mud because
Well,
you know what I
that
mean?
that's the thing, right? Like your trowel bar's here and then your shoes are on either side. And when you're pushing that mud, you're just filling that crevice and dragging it along the wall, right? When you lift it, you're just filling nothing. So you could
Hmm.
push your whole box out onto the floor if that's what you felt like doing once you kind of bring those wheels up, right?
Hmm.
It's like a big finessey thing. I don't do it. If I've got like a super high butt on a wall or something, I will, because the pressure that you can create kind of doing that little cheat is
Hmm.
less pressure that I've got to put, or like if I even can't. Like this last site that we were on were I think 12 feet in the highest part, and trying to get that top butt joint, that was the only way that I could do it. Like it was just I couldn't create enough force, because when you get up there on a ladder, you're going to fall off the fucking ladder pushing that hard on the wall. It's just what's going to happen. So, in that little bathroom, we couldn't get a scaffold in there. We couldn't really do anything. So I got to like a comfortable position and then just like corrected. But when you're doing that drag, that bar wants to sit like this. That's how the box works. When you're doing this, that crown, instead of being vertical, is now this. And the box really isn't doing what it's supposed to be. Oh, and we lost him. All right, we'll see what's going on here. And we're back. I so last thing you heard was if you're pushing too hard, you're going to fall off the ladder. And
Hmm.
and that's just where you're at, right? If you've got the pressure above your head and you're pushing, then your body wants to be out, and whatever you're bracing yourself on is going to take that movement.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when you do that little bit of a cheat with the box, it kind of alleviates the pressure you have to create, and then it allows you to do whatever it is that you need to do in that moment, right?
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
that's why you remember that picture I sent you. I had those stilts stacked up on each other
On other stilts. Yeah, I remember.
because I have that same problem on scaffolding. If your wheels aren't locked and you're pushing the box, your scaffolding is,
Yeah,
and who wants
scares
to
the shit
keep
out of you.
climbing up and down and lock the wheels, unlock the wheels? Have you tried the handles that are bent?
Okay, so I have
How do you
uh
like them?
a couple of times, and I get it. I think that goes back to what we were talking about, where it's instead of your box doing this, it's like here's your box, here's your handle, and you having to push into it. With that bent handle, it's like this. So you
Uh-huh.
are you are pushing in kind of like a better way, like the transfer is better.
Uh-huh.
Because when I really started talking to people that like intimately knew the box, you're not pushing the box against the wall. What you're trying to do is create from that door to the brass bar,
Hmm.
right? Push the mud. So the bend handles are pretty cool. My big thing is they're so little.
Oh, really?
And I'm like a fucking monster, right? And I'm used to the big hefty matrix
Right.
handles, so it's kind of weird for me. Brad has a like a 6 foot bent handle that it was the first handle he ever bought, and it now has like a spring to it a little bit because he has
Okay.
used it so it's broken in.
Yep.
And you go from the top, and then by the time you're at the bottom, it has this like pressure that it's creating.
Hmm.
So I think they're a good idea. I don't, my shit's working right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Uh, I've never tried. I love trying everything, even
Hmm.
if I know it's going to be a stupid idea and it's not needed. I like to just try, and I see those, and I keep thinking this would be really good to do those high butt joints where you
Yep.
really have to put your back into it. But then I always think this is just one more handle switch I got to do, and one more thing I can't hit while I'm right there because I got to wait till I have the new. You know what I mean? So it might end up being one of those things you buy to try and it just sits because you don't feel like changing the handle in between,
That's one of
I don't
those
know.
big things. If I've got a big site and it's just mine, like nobody else is going to be on it, all of my handles are there. Basically, all of my tools are there. And it's just
Hmm.
for that specific thing. Like if I fight a specific butt joint on the first coat, I'm like, I'm not doing that again. We're going to swap it. And sometimes, like in like a staircase, whatever's going to alleviate that is worth that few minutes of unattach, reattach kind of stuff. But for you to be doing that every room, like it, you're now taking away from the speed of the process.
Right, right.
And I get that. Um, one
I
of
could
the,
see on like a commercial job where you just have
Mhm.
miles of stand-ups, hitting those with the tops and then somebody coming back with a different handle to do the bottoms. That would be helpful. But on a house, like you said, I don't know.
So Brad and I did
One
that.
day I'll run out of Columbia stuff and I'll need more, and that'll be the thing that I buy.
Right.
So,
It's funny that you said that because Brad and I did that today. We're in like a module home thing right now, and we're gonna do a big
yeah.
level 5 spray tomorrow. But to get it ready, because obviously they weren't ready for us, and that happens all the time. But he had his big handle and he was pulling from the ceiling down, and I was following him with my short handle going from
hmm
the bottom up, and it worked out, man. Like
hmm
we boxed like 5,000 feet in maybe 2 hours. I don't even think it was 2 hours. But it's that whole thing. It's like running the nail spotter. Start down, start down, start down. Like when I'm doing flats like that, I'm gonna hit it from the top and then I'm gonna turn it around, reposition myself, go up from the bottom. That process of like bang, 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 and then coming around to do it again makes a lot more sense. But I just wouldn't have. I thought he and I were going to take a room like each, and then, it's a race
But
to
then you
the
don't
third.
learn that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
I,
you're comfortable that way, but you don't learn.
you don't get better being comfortable
Exactly.
for
It's
sure.
funny you mentioned the nail spotter. Uh, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but that tool had the biggest learning curve for me.
It does, dude. Yeah.
I that thing I I don't know how many jobs I did by hand after owning the nail spotter because I just couldn't. I was the skid plate was digging into my seams. The screws were too close to the thing, and then I was leaving globs. I couldn't figure out how to pull it off at the end and which way my body had to go, so I didn't get that glob. And dude, I had the toughest. And then actually, I found out. I took a closer look. I watched one of Columbia's videos on how to adjust the
Hmm.
blade because it's supposed to have a little crown to it, and mine didn't. Mine had like a crown on one side, but it was flat on the other, so it kept leaving a thick edge on one side, and then when I'd go over it with a three, that blade would just scrape the edge and leave an even bigger edge. And I'm like, how do people use these things? I'm still not great with it, but I have started to run that thing before I do my box work, so that I
Right.
don't chance digging it into which I was always nervous about doing because I definitely want to make sure I finish all my box work. So it doesn't make sense to start with something that's not box work. I want to get the box work out of the way, but I don't know. I kind of got it figured out now, and it doesn't take long to blow through a nail spot in a house. I
No.
still do the first coat by hand. I don't know about you, but
I feel like you have to. Those blades aren't expensive, but what is expensive is having to take it down and replace a blade and there's nothing more infuriating than having like a 9 foot ceiling where you hit a tick and then you've left a big glob of shit all over the place. And it's like, okay, so do I stop the momentum and clean this up now, or do I come back and fix it or whatever? I like hopping on my stilts and doing hand on everything. I've got a screwdriver in my pocket.
hmm
Typically, I'll hit my three ways while I'm up there. Like
yep, same thing. Yep.
you create the process with it. I in the very beginning, dude, every single screw was hit by hand with like 90. So
hmm
I thought it was real strong and this and that. But three real good coats when you do the first one with like a thicker mud,
hmm
there's no need for the other stuff unless you're doing a Durabond, but like you're playing with fire doing that too, right? You leave an edge somewhere and now it's a that you blew it.
hmm Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean the nail spotter is one of those things where I think people think they're going to buy it and then they're just going to run through the house with it, but it's like
I mean,
there
you
is
can run through the house if you're going over all of your flats, just doing a whole row at once.
yeah.
I've never had great luck with that. Um, it always seems like it's going to flash to me. But I mean, you can blow through a house pretty fast with a nail spotter, but there's a lot of areas you really can't hit with the nail spotter. You still got to go around, and if you're hitting sides of windows that are real close, or
Hmm.
it's definitely. I mean, I have the tool, I use it, I like the way the work looks when I use it. The customers like it. Wow, it looks clean. Everything is so straight and looks nice, and it is faster than doing it by hand. But it just took me a while to get the hang of it. But I feel stupid because it's the most basic, simple tool. It's what you start the new guy out with, and I'm like, here I am fighting. Like, I don't know. It's just funny.
That creating that bevel on the nail
Hmm.
spotter is key.
Hmm.
Um, like you also need to like buy a tool, become comfortable with running it, and then find the things you don't like about it and adjust the tool.
Hmm.
Like I went into CSR today and talked to Ryan. He's their tool guy, and we took my angle head apart and put it back together, like dialed it in the way I wanted it.
Yep.
And it just looking at it, it was like, oh, this makes more sense because the side blade doesn't have the same kind of pitch on it as the other one. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm leaving more mud over here. And on the one side, it wasn't touching the same as what it was
Yep.
touching the other side. You know what I mean? And it was took 15 minutes, but to wrap
Hmm.
your head around that with somebody that knows what they're doing, that's a game changer now. I know that I can play with those blades. I never
Hmm.
wanted to do that. I thought it was like a big process. It's really not. Like once
It's not, but it is kind of a pain. You know, it's I don't know.
totally.
If you've got a spot set up to work on the stuff, and for me, it's always like, where's that damn nut driver? And I'm digging around for half an hour trying to find the right, the bit that I need to get, scraping the mud out of the screws. And I don't know. I don't use angle heads anymore, actually. But
What do you use in flushers?
yeah, actually, Aaron gave me two flushers at that Orlando show.
That's right.
I'd never used them before, and I tried them, and I loved the finish. I do have to alter. I have the direct. One of them is the direct flusher,
Hmm.
but the hole that the mud comes out of is just way too small
Yeah.
to be able to do anything in one pass. So I'm going to take that little protective plate over it and drill out the metal to get
Nice.
a bigger hole so that way I could just stick it on my tube and just go that way. But I got to order another one first before I fuck that one up by
Yeah.
drilling into the metal. So, um, the I used an angle head for 15 years
Yeah.
and I loved it, but I was leaving blade marks through my flats.
Right.
So I like to do my angles the same day as the flats, but they're still a little wet and it leaves a mark through there on my stuff. And I'm using +3 mud, so it's real soft. So I figured rather than, everything's a trade-off in drywall, right? You save time here, you spend it here, back and forth. So I just, for me, it's easier to not have to spend time fixing those lines through the flats, filling those in, and I just spend the extra time running the tube and then going back with the flusher. But I like the way they sand. I think it does a nice job, but I don't know. I'm still playing around. I got brand new angle heads I just got, and I think I used them on like two jobs and then started with the flushers. But I'm gonna mess around with trying to make it so that I could use the flusher on an angle box or on a. My framing out here is bad,
Is
so
it?
the angle heads are always leaving edges and high spots to sand, and they're awful here. It's terrible, but
How are you
yeah.
sanding?
With the Festool 2,
Yeah, okay.
which I don't like as much as the original Festool.
I'm hearing that more and more.
Yeah, it's the Festool. The the second Planex is very slow, and you used it, right?
Totally. I've not used the first one.
Well, the second one has the interface pad that kind of screws in with those plastic things.
Yep.
And the biggest issue for me is when you tighten that in, it creates little dimples in the interface pad.
Okay.
So it's not a flat pad you're sanding with. So when you're running down the side of an angle, you could see those little humps from the dimples in the pad. But again, that thing's got a super strong light on it.
Hmm.
So no matter how mint your job is, that thing with that light is always going to make you feel like you are a shit taper
Yeah.
because it just shows everything that nobody will ever see. But I can see those little ripples as I'm sanding, and it's like I don't know. And then I go back with another light when I'm hand sanding, and I'm like, this is mint. What was I seeing? You know? But it's a very slow machine. I use the my buddy's got a Merca,
Yep.
and I like that too. I think if I had to get another one, I'd probably get that one. Um, I just really love the Festool being able to shrink it down.
Hmm.
But I would prefer to go back and use my original. But this is what I got now. It's working out.
That's the biggest thing with that Bosch that I got is it has that centerpiece that comes out of it.
Hmm.
So it can be a full size sander, or you can shrink it down to like just like the short box, man. I like it
Hmm.
right here. I'm in full
Hmm.
control right here. I'm not overextending, and this arm trying to hold it's fucking moving around while you're trying to be precise with it. Like I've even gotten to the point where I'm on stilts with the short, like without that adapter in it. I much
Hmm.
rather that than using it with the pole on it. I just think it's weird. And I'm big, like I'm a tall guy, so I don't think, like if it was a 10-foot ceiling instead of like a 9-foot ceiling, maybe it would be different, where I would be fully extended using it. But
hmm.
yeah, it's interesting.
That's rough, man. When you're doing that all day, like
Yeah.
I can with the one extension on the Festool, I can reach a 10-foot ceiling, but I get on stilts because it is a
Mhm.
beast. Your neck is just dead at the end of the day. Looking up, it's like you said, if you're right there, it feels so much easier on your body, you know.
Well,
But
and one,
and I don't know the specs on it though, but I'm pretty sure the original Festool was a lot lighter than the newer one.
okay, that's
Because
interesting.
I really feel it with that second one. I hate pushing that thing. I do like the Merca's super light. You've
It
used the
is.
Merca?
I
It's
have.
super light.
And I think everything has its ups and downs, but the Mirka sander itself, the way that it operates, I think is a better sander. Like it
Hmm.
is for drywall finishing. It's not for popcorn. It's not for all this other shit. It is specifically for finishing drywall.
Hmm.
The guy that let me use it said there's 150 grit paper in that box. Use as much as you want, and then we'll figure it out at the end. And I'm like, 150? Are you out of your fucking mind? Like I use 220, and he was like, just put it on, and it is a different thing. It was buffing out just as nice as what the 220 is on a regular sander for me. The thing I
Hmm.
don't like about the Mirka is one, there's no light, and the bump that they got to add that bump to the vac. You,
What do you
you,
mean the
you
bump?
so on a Festool or on the Bosch, it self cleans. It's like boop
Oh, on
boop
the
boop,
vacuum. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? The Mirka has like a button you have to push to bump it. So like
Oh,
you have to
really?
stop what you're doing to do that. And it's the stupidest thing to me because I'm not going to do that. Like I know that I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get into the rhythm and I'm going to keep going and then blow this thing up. Like it's too expensive to do that.
Well, I mean, you could always use the Merca machine with the Festool vacuum.
I
I think
was
the Festool vacuum is industry's like
mhm.
the best dust collection available. I mean, I'm no expert on it. I haven't done any tests on it, but the Festool vacuum is freaking phenomenal for dust collection.
So
And I would never use anything else after owning that one. My buddy with the Merca has the Merca vacuum,
yeah.
but he has like duct taped several different hoses together,
Yeah.
so he could just set the thing down next to the front door and stay in the whole house. I wasn't
Nice.
impressed with the dust collection, but I think it's probably because he's got so many damn hoses that
Yeah, you lose
so
suction over
I don't
per
know.
foot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people out there using the Merca with the Festool back.
That's interesting. My only thought
Mhm.
process there was like, is it the same? Is it getting all the juice it needs from a different vacuum? Like it wasn't made for it, but I'm sure it's all the same, dude. You could probably run
That's
them
fair.
all without the fucking vac. Like they're all plugged into the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I really liked that Merca. When you talk about the different vacuums and like how impressive that Festool is, that Festool is made to be put with a chop saw for cutting wood. And
Oh yeah.
it's made for carpenters and it's made for all different types of trades, right? So I think that kind of plays a role in it too. When they sent me that Bosch, I thought that it was a value brand and I wasn't sure what I was getting into. I didn't think it was going to have the bump. I didn't think it was going to have all the things that it has. But then after using it and being impressed with it, I was like, of course it is, man. Bosch is one of these full spectrum companies that has
Yeah,
S
lasers and
SDS
yeah,
and
yeah,
you know what I mean? It is a
yeah.
dust collector, not a drywall dust collector. Um, like I think cement dust is probably the hardest thing on these vacuums. Like we rented a Hilti with a concrete saw and plugged it in and had damn near no concrete dust.
Hmm.
So, when I'm thinking about how something's going to perform, if it's performing to that level, what we're putting it through is minimal. When it comes to stress.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's an interesting thing. I mean, like, if I ever got into like reviewing, and I would love to run them and really see the difference in all of them, but like short of spending 20 grand, you're never going to have them all to do it. So it's you kind of have to, burn your boats on the one that you got and then make your decision when that one blows up.
Well, I was using the Porter cable machine and vacuum for a lot of years, and then what was it? DeWalt started making the Porter cable, or Porter
I
cable
think they
was
bought
became
them.
DeWalt, or whatever it was.
Hmm.
So then DeWalt started making those HEPA vacuums with the auto clean, and it would cake up. So that filter would just be destroyed. You'd have to stop like every couple rooms and empty the thing out. And then I bought this Festool vacuum years ago, and I was watching a bunch of research videos because I was really torn whether or not to spend that kind of coin
Yeah,
on the Festool or the Merca. These are my two. I've had all the other ones. I've had the cheap Chinese Amazon ones. I said I want something that's going to last. It's going to do a phenomenal job. So I just started looking what everybody's using, and I saw at the time when I bought it, Festool and Merca were like the top players in the game. And so I started watching all these review videos, and then I found one because I've always used a bag in my vacuum.
same.
Um, I saw one review, and I dove a little bit deeper into it and realized it actually performs better without the bag.
Probably.
Um, so right
You
now I use a liner, uh, because I had been using the paper Porter cable bags or like the fleece DeWalt bags.
yes.
And what I found out was that you're not getting the suction you need because it's having to fight through that bag material. And secondly, you start sanding, collecting dust, that motor's running like real hot inside of that vacuum. So it's very warm in there. And you got humidity and whatever plays a role into turning all that fine dust into like a gunk that's clogging the bag. So you're not getting the suction. Um, and the thing has the auto clean feature. So I stopped using a bag. I'm like, this, why am I wasting money on these? If it's phenomenal without the bag,
Hmm.
So I've been spending money on bags for how many years, and I don't need to. Anyway,
My big thing was with the bag is that it collects it all and it's predictable. Like I know once it starts getting heavy, I swap the bag out. Like I don't know, it's just part of the process. I'm so worried about gunking up that HEPA filter and having to start replace HEPA filters. Um, but a lot of people are using the plastic liners. Like there's
yeah, I do. I use those sometimes.
but
If I'm
what?
working in somebody's house where I don't want to carry a dusty vacuum through their house to
Yes.
go empty it, I'll just take the liner out and then, you know, zip tie it or whatever and walk
Hmm.
through the house that way. But I was skeptical at first with the same thing you're talking about. But when I take the filter out to clean it and it's just caked with dust, the other side of that filter is bone dry. There's not a
Right.
speck of dust on it. I don't know if they're all like that, but maybe I lucked out. I don't know.
And I mean that's what it's for. Right?
Yeah.
That HEPA filter that is what it's for. And it has a lifetime. Like it's just like an RO system with water, right? Like it's a membrane. Eventually it's going to clog up and then you just got to get a new membrane. It's just the
Hmm.
way that it is, or it's not going to run efficiently.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's interesting getting into that part of it because I never really owned like a HEPA vac up until a couple of months ago. So I'm
Oh, really?
really just starting to stick my toe into it. Like I had a DeWalt sander um that I had hooked up to like a fucking shop vac. Like it was a
Hmm.
disaster, but it was better than the Cypress
Yeah,
Hill
nothing.
concert without it. Yeah, exactly. Um that's what I call it because it is. It is a Cypress Hill
There's so
concert.
many people out there that don't use a vacuum, and I don't want to knock anyone's style, but I don't know how these guys do that. And that's another reason I don't understand the battery sand machines because you need a vacuum and you need a
Yeah.
cord on. You're gonna have a hose, but I don't get how people are sanding without freaking vacuums, man. It's just you can't even see in
That
there.
was my big issue was I could use it and it was a little heavier, but I don't care. Like I'm a big guy. But it was the visibility. Like I'm not doing this and not knowing what I'm doing. I just spent a week making this as perfectly as I could. I'm gonna
Yeah.
blow it with a vacuum, like with or with a sander without a vacuum. It doesn't make any sense, you know?
Cypress
Um,
Hill concert.
yeah, man, you're
That's
like looking
funny.
through the door, you don't know if someone's
Yeah.
there. Like it's just like a smoke show, right?
Yeah.
Have you
Uh,
used many other brands of auto tools?
well, the tools themselves. Well, I mean, I've got drywall master
Hmm.
angle heads. I got a tape tech pump. I used to have the mud runner. Like I said, I used that for a lot of years, then I sold it.
Who's the
Um,
Mud Runner through?
tape tech.
Is it? Yeah.
You've seen that tool, right? It's like a mud shot.
There's so
It's
many different variations of it. Yeah, like I know the idea of it.
so
Um,
I used that for many, many years until one day I got to the job to run my angles and I realized I forgot it at the shop. And I'm like, all right, I could drive all the way back to shop to get this, or let me try sticking an angle head directly on my compound tube.
hmm.
I ran that and I was like, don't need a mud runner anymore. This is freaking I'm flying with this. So I sold the mud runner, but that was a tape tech and I had bought a tape tech pump with it. And I've used the Drywall Master bazooka. I've used tape tech boxes, but they were just things that were loaned to me to try
Right,
before I bought my own stuff. I've used some level five stuff. Wouldn't recommend it.
right.
That's about it. I really want to try some North Star stuff. I hear nothing but good things about that company, and I'd like to try it just to see what the hype is about.
I mean, my understanding of North Star is that you have all these tool companies that are making good tools. They work. People shit on level five all the time, and the tools work. Like it's just not the best one out there, right?
Hmm.
But with North Star, Mark is a finisher, and he is a finisher making tools for finishers. So it's very precise. Like it is, if you were to build your own tools and go through the process, I think that is that next step when it comes to it. And from kind of what I hear, like I talked to Brad about a lot of this stuff, especially when it comes to North Star. You kind of, it sounds like you need to run the whole kit together. Like it's not something that you have this box and that angle head and this over here and that over there. Like if you're running a North Star box, you want the next one and the next one because they all work together. You know what I mean? Like
Are you saying like the crowns are set up a little different, or
yeah, so it sounds like the trowel bars are put through a jig, so they're all the
yeah?
same. Um it's just that level of I don't want to say care because like Columbia puts a lot of care into their stuff, but it's not like
I mean, they all do.
tweaked by a finisher before it comes to you. But the downside to that is you have to be the guy touching the tool, or it's not the same. That care is not there anymore if it's just some guy putting them together. And then how many tools can one guy make? And how many repair kits can he make while he's touching all these tools, right?
Yeah,
You can't
that's
get it.
another big thing is that they're parts and stuff is never available. And I'll say like about Columbia, they have parts literally for everything available everywhere. I
Hmm.
mean, there's no excuse for somebody to run into an accident, a screw falls out, some part breaks, and not be able to go somewhere that day and pick it up. I
Yeah.
mean, and I'm sold on Columbia. Actually, my vendor back in Connecticut, he became he became a Columbia and Level 5 dealer.
Hmm.
And I only bought Columbia because, he was my buddy, he was my vendor for a lot of years. I said, all right, I'll buy some stuff from you. And then, after talking with Aaron one time, I had a problem with my bazooka and I sent him a message and he FaceTimed me and helped me
Hmm.
fix it right there on the spot. And I was like, if this isn't customer service, then I don't know what is. So, I'm pretty loyal to them, and I'm, he always helps me. Everybody helps me with them, and I don't know if the owners of Tape Tech are doing that, or if the owners of Drywall Master or whatever are doing that, but that's more valuable than anything, really.
Every step of
I
the way,
just I I just want to try other ones, you
of,
know.
of course, like, and I've never run anything else. And like I can confidently say Columbia is the best tool I've ever used. You know what I mean? And it does what it needs to do. Like um I've learned how to run the boxes I own properly. They're
Hmm.
mine, right? They're set to me. As opposed to
You didn't run any of Brad's tools when you were working with him? Never?
I'm not doing it, man. And the way
You
that he
didn't want to
said it,
you didn't want to get any green on you?
no, I don't. And he's like,
Ugh.
dude, just run it. I won't tell anyone. And I'm like, don't pull a bag of heroin out of your pocket. Because what if it is? What if it is the fucking what changes everything? I'm not fucking doing that. I'm good. You know what I mean? And I'm running my tools good. Uh the other part of that is like, if you think that there's a variation in your brass bar or something, take an afternoon and pull the fucking thing off and bend it the way you want it.
Mhm.
Right? Like I don't see any reason for me to run any other tool. They all work. My work turns out, man, like you take the time and the care to figure out how it runs. The thing that kills me about the North Star stuff is, let's say you run North Star and you love it. And then you hire some guy, you're not going to have him running his whatever you deem to be shitty boxes now on your site. So can you go to the store and buy him a kit? No. If your fucking tools break down, can you go to the store and get, the repair kit that you specifically need today? No. And maybe you can, but it's in specific places at specific times. If I wanted to hire 10 fucking guys tomorrow anywhere on the in North America and go hook them up with Columbia shit and have 10 fix packs for everything that we own, we could do that today.
Mhm.
And then after all of that, let's say that's a nightmare. Like you said, you call Columbia and Aaron, who owns it, walks you through it because these guys have built these tools. It's not like he just owns the company. He intimately understands every piece of every tool of everything intimately. So when you're like, yeah, it's kind of running like shit. I just did my pizza cutters. What about this? What about that? He's like, oh, it's this one little thing. If you just do that, you're good. And then you do, and you're like, holy shit.
Mhm.
I just don't think that there's another company that's doing that. And some of these like massive companies too, I don't think they need to. I don't want to say they don't care. But at the end of the day, if you specifically stop using their tools, they don't fucking they
No,
don't they
no,
won't
no.
notice that. There's hundreds of millions of dollars of tools being sold probably every day. So it's not a big thing. Like I don't know. Columbia is one of these companies that the shit does not make sense on paper. Having the owner of a company FaceTime a guy or
I
girl.
mean, I don't think he sits there all day freaking
Oh, he
talking to
doesn't.
people about how to
He
fix their
makes the
tool, but
time, right? And
yeah.
making the time doesn't make any fucking sense. Like you should hire somebody that understands this stuff, but who is gonna get 20 years of experience knowing that stuff tomorrow? Nobody,
Hmm.
right? And that's kind of the deal. And I mean, when you go into that facility, the building areas, they've got computer screens, they've got the blueprint layout of every little piece of every little tool, and it is like step one, step two, step three, and then it goes down the line. Like everything is made exactly the same. I don't know. It's efficient. I always kind of worried until I met Aaron that it was like this beautiful thing that I think is amazing. At some point, you're going to pull that drape back and figure out the Wizard of Oz is some idiot on the other side of it. And I've never found that every step of the
Hmm.
way. Like I've had conversations with people that were like, this was botched. Like it did not work. It was broken. It was fighting me. It was whatever it was. And then when you continue that conversation, it was fixed.
Hmm.
Like I've never talked to anybody other than people that are migrating to North Star because of whatever reason. I've never
Whoa,
talked
whoa,
to
whoa, 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 whoa,
somebody.
whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not migrating. I just said I wanted to
I
try it.
didn't say
Okay.
you were. I didn't say you.
I didn't say I was going to switch and start wearing green shirts. I said I wanted to try it just to see,
um,
just to get a little taste, see
but
what it tastes like.
I've yeah, see, I like dive into stuff though. You know what I mean? And I think that would be bad for my brand.
I can't afford to buy a whole freaking North Star kit, you know? But I will say that Aaron has helped me out several times. And
Oh,
even after
dude,
that FaceTime, he sent me a package. Like he gave me like a quick temporary on the job fix to finish my day out.
I like that.
And then he said, "So I'm gonna send you the piece to replace that." And it was like freaking next day. And not only did he send me the piece I need, he sent me like other parts that wear out and just I never even asked them. And again, I don't know if these other companies are doing that, but I don't see anything about them doing that. But
But I mean, that
I
is,
I, I got no reason to switch.
yeah, that is a guy sitting there going, at the end of the day, I want the finisher to benefit from my tools. So if this little thing's wearing out and gave you a problem, he knows right away these other three things are probably going to go soon because that's just the
Hmm.
timeline of the tool. Like
Hmm.
when I talked to him about so Steve from Whitby Drywall took apart his like head assembly and did the kit himself.
Yep.
And I talked to Aaron about that and was like, how often should you be doing that? And he's like, if you're running that taper once a week on like 10,000 feet or something like that, you should be doing it once a year. And that keeps it running optimal. And you also talk to guys that are like, I've had this taper fucking 10 years and I've not, and I've never changed anything except blades and pins and stuff. It's a tune-up of a car, right? It's like it'll run, but not like when you got it. Um, I gave Brad my Predator, and it is damn near a brand new one. Because I've got three now. I've got the one that he kind of made like punk rock with the extension on it for high stuff. I've got my original one, and then the third one that I have was when they got the new tubes, like the new carbon
Hmm.
fiber tubes. He was like, "Run this, like, don't be gentle with it. I want to make sure nothing leaks."
Hmm.
And so that's sentimental to me, where it's like this is the first one, period. Like I like that. But
Hmm.
I had gummed up the previous one, so that's the one that I brought to site, and Brad was like, "This thing is dope." Because it's brand new. And
Hmm.
your taper can be brand new. You just got to redo it. Like CSR is one of these companies that like, and they're redoing their pricing. It's about to come out on the website where send us whatever it is. We will fix it, tune it up to whatever you need it to be, and we will send it back to you. And it's pretty cheap. Like I was looking
Yeah,
at,
I need a place like that.
well, and you
I've got
can,
loads of tools that need to be uh, fixed, reworked out that I just don't have the time or the patience for. So that's really valuable.
I don't think it's worth my time. Because
No, it's not.
for me to undo it, figure it out, take it to site, figure out it's clunky because I didn't do it properly, like it's not worth it. Like if you have duplicates. If you don't have duplicates, you got to figure it out.
I need to get a second bazooka. I
Yeah.
do. And I really need them to come out with one that has a removable head.
Yes.
That's what I'm waiting for. But
It's been talking about it.
um, yeah, I know. Who knows? But
That's a
no, I
whole
do.
new thing, though. Like that's you're reworking your tool at that point. And that's a big undertaking.
I mean, it's been done.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
it's just something that I mean, maybe it's not valuable to everybody, but to me, it would be a massive improvement.
I would
Um,
like to be able to take that head and put it on a shorty for closets,
hmm
right?
hmm
Like the 6 foot taper. I mean, I don't really need it, but that shorty, I would use that every site.
hmm
100% I would.
Well, I mean, is that 6 foot taper something that is going to be available, or did they just make a handful of those and
I'm sure it
just for fun?
will. That assembly with the cable and the plunger is the exact same amount of mud as
Hmm
the regular Predator. So it's not like there's the only benefit of using that is it's got the longer sleeve. You can cut much higher. You can reach much higher. And I mean, who's buying a second taper for 1.5 feet? Like, I can't imagine the return on investment of bringing out a 6 foot taper. Now, there's a bunch of us that would have them because it's like that
hmm
makes sense, right? When Danny got his, he was like, this thing's amazing. But
Well,
unless
he's only
you,
3 foot tall, but I mean,
well,
this is a living junk. No,
oh
that's the first
man.
thing I asked him when he posted that video was, "Is that full of mud?" I mean, because that thing's got to be 200 pounds. And he's like, "No, it's just regular amount of mud." But
I mean,
but to have a head, you could just buy the 6 foot tube and stick the head on. That would, I
totally.
mean,
And then it's affordable because you're buying a tube.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're not, putting that taper head together has got to be a thing,
hmm
right? So having to do that whole process a second time, like you've got to charge for that. But if you had like a removable head where you could get a short and an extra long and just clip it into place, that becomes affordable. It's just the
Well, Aaron said
process of,
he had some drawings, some
mhm.
ideas kicking around, but he's like, don't expect anything anytime soon, which I get, but. That's why I'm holding out. I'm like, should I buy another taper? I'd love a Predator. I'm still using a non-Predator one, but I'm scared. I'm gonna buy it, and then like 3 months later, boom, removable head Columbia taper. I
Well,
don't
get
know.
on it because the rest of us want one. No.
You get on them.
No, that is my thing, man. As soon as I buy something that I think is perfect, the next day something comes out that is the next step up, and I'm like, cool. All right.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm curious. There's a lot of tool manufacturers out there, Columbia included, that haven't made things that like North Star, for example. Do they have nail spotters? Do they have compound tubes? Like, how come they all don't have competition with like
I
have you used the Tape Tech Wizard, the little handle?
No, but I've looked at it.
Cam uses that, right?
Yeah.
Or used to use that. How come Columbia doesn't have something like that?
Well, the patents play a role, for sure. But on the other end of this thing, Aaron's one of these guys that's like, that wasn't my idea. Like, are you gonna rip
Oh,
somebody
okay.
off? Why? The same thing, like, if you take a good look around, Columbia is very good at like foresight of like this is going to
hmm
work, right? And they pick up people, they roll the dice on people, those people do good jobs, and then other tool companies come in and poach them. Aaron doesn't do that shit. It's like we don't need to poach people, we will find our own people. So I imagine, you know, what do? You start stealing ideas like that's your integrity,
I
man.
didn't even think about that, but
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the bigger part of it all too, because like I never thought about any of that shit either until you talk to them and like you get to know them and you're like, that kind of makes sense. Because
yeah,
it's like, why wouldn't you? Well, this is why, right?
that's pretty admirable, I suppose.
I think it is. It's integrity and like not burning bridges is a big thing in this industry, man. And when you get to a certain level, it is a very small industry.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but then going back to nail spotters, like how could North Star possibly improve a nail spotter, really? Like to make it that much
Well, I mean,
better.
somebody that's buying a kit, their first kit,
Hmm.
like you were saying, you want everything to be the same.
Yeah.
So what, a guy's gonna have, North Star everything, and then these nail spotters and these compound tubes. I don't know. I just kind of I figured all the top players in the drywall tool game would all have the same tools available.
My thought
But
process,
maybe that little tape tech wizard was a bad example because that's kind of
no,
like a
it's a
specialty item that's not in everybody's kit. But everybody needs a nail spotter if they're auto
yeah.
tapers, you know.
But it is kind of the perfect example of like that is something that is super clutch if you use it. So why
Hmm.
don't we have it? You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the answer. And it's like they do have a little closet monster. It's just not the same thing. Like the thing I like about that wizard handle is you've got the top pressure
Hmm.
pad. You know what I mean? So
That closet monster is the thing with the ball on one end.
yes, yeah, it's just a little tiny handle.
I
Um,
don't understand that tool. I keep seeing brakeless handles.
mhm.
How does one use one of those? I've only ever used a brake.
Do you have a tomahawk with your tomahawks?
Yes.
Okay, so when you set that, that is the way that it runs now because you know that when I'm standing here at my height and whatever the pressure, my angle, you can set it like that. And then it's
Oh, so it's
always the
not
same.
constantly flopping around.
No. So
Oh, I didn't.
you
Okay, okay,
you are setting that like the tomahawk and then you're running it. But you
okay.
also have to understand how to break off of the wall without a break,
Hmm.
right? So it is this kind of like a scraping pull
Yeah.
so you're not leaving a bunch of shit behind. And I mean, I've never used them because I just never had to. Like I was given the matrix handles right off the bat. I was
Hmm.
actually given the angle heads right off the bat. So I really didn't have a whole lot of flusher experience either. Like when people talk about how quickly they wear down and like that apex of like how
Hmm.
long does that apex actually stay? I don't know because I just never
Well, he gave those to me at the build show in last March. They're still going strong.
still
And
mint.
I don't have to sand my angles
Wow.
with an angle head or a flusher. I was afraid they were going to be rounded and I'd have to kind of trim text but I don't sand them, so I mean, I mean, some people say that they they'll get a little crack there. The metal gets too thin, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't experienced yet, but I mean, it's a cheap tool. It's easy to replace.
I mean,
But then again, the
anything.
angle head lasts a long time, 15
What
years. Yeah.
when I was talking to Ryan today, I asked him about blades, and I was like, "What did I do to make it like this?" And he was like, "You probably dropped it. Like that. That's probably what knocked it out of position. Because um, they're carbon blades. Like um, the type of material I think is the same material as like a cutter.
Hmm.
So unless you chip it, it's good. Like you're not going to
Hmm.
wear it down, dragging it across drywall, right? So angle heads are one of those things that like you purchase once, you take care of it, and it lasts forever.
Hmm.
Um, when they get gunked up and shit, they stop working. But take it apart, man. It's like 10 pieces. I don't even think it's 10 pieces. You got the wings, the casing of it. Like I think fully disassembled, it's less than 10 pieces. So I don't know. The tool industry is weird like that because I'm sure there are very subtle variations in the way that people make their things. And if you had all of them and like were able to run all of them for 100,000 board feet, you would have favorites. You know what I mean? Like it
But
might be this nail spotter or that bazooka or this 5.5 box as opposed to the other ones or whatever. But that's a lot of R&D.
yeah, do you know if are flushers a thing that started in Canada?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because I know that Pan Am was like the starter of that, and I know that they were a company that was started in response to the American Ames taping tools.
Right.
And and back in Connecticut, all of the finishers, all of the good finishers were from Quebec
Okay.
in that area, and they all used flushers. And of course, I was hand taping all these years until we had a finisher from Montreal come down, and he was running. angle heads, and he worked on a couple of our jobs, and he kept going around, you guys got to buy this. You stop messing around by hand. Buy these, buy these. So as these newbies who've never seen these tools before, me and my partner were like, all right, well, we'll buy it. What kind do we get? What brands do we get? And he just sent us a list to All Wall and said,
Yep.
buy this, 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 and this. And I'm like, well, everybody's using flushers. Why are you using these? And I looked up the price difference. And at the time,
It's a big difference.
flushers were like $50 and angle heads were like three something.
Hmm.
So the only reason I bought an angle head and I used that angle head for 15 years was because it was more money. And I just figured, well, if it's this expensive, it's got to be better. And
Hmm.
that's literally the only reason I bought it. I mean, but a lot of people use flushers, and I never wanted to try one until I did, and I was like, I don't know why I've been. I wouldn't say as someone who uses an angle head to try it other than just to try it. I
Hmm.
don't think anybody that uses an angle head is going to go, I'm going to start using flushers now. They do a better job. I mean, I don't think that's the case. I mean, the angle head is a precision mint angle.
It's a box.
It's yeah, it's a machine crack. I mean, it's a good tool. But for me, I have these flushers and they do a good job. I've wanted to try them. He gave them to me. He said, "Here, try these." So
Hmm.
I did, and I liked them. So
Yeah,
I
for
don't know.
me, it's the predictability of sand day, where I know how I sand out my angle heads because I know that the angle head leaves the mud a certain way every time, right? You've got variations in your wall where, like, if you are, like I said before, the flusher is like a knife, where the angle head's like a box.
Hmm.
So, could you knife out a house as, you know, predictable as you could with a box? Probably not. And then when it comes down to sand day, if you've got little variations in your wall and the flusher's kind of like doing a certain thing, it's not all the exact same. So, which isn't a terrible thing, but the way that I sand, I start at the bottom corner, up the wall, down, and then across, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's just how I do it now. And I don't think I could do that if I was running flushers. And maybe I could, but I don't know.
I'll
It
be
worked.
honest. I don't do a single thing different on sanding day than I do with angle heads or flusher. Literally, the only difference for me is the flusher leaves no edge,
Right.
whereas for me, I mean, my angle heads are also 15 years old, and
Right.
I've once changed the blades once in 15 years. So that could play a big part into why I wasn't happy enough to try a flusher. But I do the same as you, up, down, over, ceilings, perimeter,
Yep.
and that's it. The only thing I go back and block is my three ways. I
Right.
don't. I mean, occasionally I'll walk to the other three-way, brushing down the angle, but I don't sit there and freaking sand the piss out of it. It's already an angle. There's nothing to sand. But uh, the flusher leaves no edge. The angle
Right.
head does if you don't have perfect framing.
Right.
Maybe your framing is better than ours is, but you do get an edge. And I know there's little adjustments you can make on the blade to make
For
more
sure.
or less of an edge. But maybe mine's just worn down. I don't know.
Well,
And
that
I got three brand new angle heads that like I said, I've used two or three times sitting in my trailer, and eventually I'll go back to them when I get sick of running a tube. But
the the peak of that angle head where it
hmm
when it activates, it makes that peak.
hmm
That's got to be touching. And then as you run down to the sides, both side blades have to be the same,
hmm
right? So if one's a little bit more than the other, you're going to have a variation in your edging. And then
hmm
from that connection down to the back, if it doesn't have the correct slope on it, same
hmm
thing, right? And it has to be the same either side. Like it really is like when it activates, it is making a box that runs down the wall. If everything is not exactly the same, you're going to have that kind of variations. That could be why leaving edges is that you've dropped it or bumped it or whatever.
That very well could be.
It could be that
But
it wasn't set up properly. You don't know. Like
the the uh, the other thing is I run my angles different than I think the way everybody else does, because this is just what that one guy who told me to buy angle heads taught
yeah,
me how to do. Um, I ran a 3 inch on tape day with
yeah,
all-purpose mud, And then I ran a 2.5 inch on finish day. So I went smaller. And the
Interesting.
reason he taught me that way is because, well, now you don't have to pre-sand your angles because there's no edge to sand off. You're in the middle of that line. Um, and now on sanding day, because my first coat, my tape coat was done with all purpose, um, it's harder to sand that than the rest of the job that's done in all finishing mud. You know
For
what I mean?
sure.
So my edge on finishing day is still the all purpose from tape day. So that
Right.
might have been it too. I don't know. But I do have to, I mean, is it common to people pre-sand their angles with a pole before they run the finish?
I always do. I pre-sand
Oh, okay.
everything.
Oh, you
Everything.
do?
The entire
Really?
site of everything that I'm going to touch in the beginning of the day gets sanded every single time.
Huh.
And it's becoming less and less needed as my kind of skill has progressed because I'm not leaving big fucking humps everywhere and like I'm not leaving chunks of shit and right like as you progress with the tools that becomes less and less like that 8 inch box run I probably don't need to pre-sand that because the next box is going to come
Oh,
over top and cover it,
yeah.
so what the fuck am I doing? But it's just been my want to have the best quality product I can give or whatever,
See,
but I'm
I had a
overdoing
worse
it.
I had worse quality when I would sand in between coats.
Okay.
It's so weird how two different finishers have two totally different styles. And again, like I said, I've only learned from watching Instagram. So
Right.
I just kind of figured the shit out on my own. But like for me, because I hand finished for so long, if I pre-sanded, you know, in between two coats, I found that I was clogging any air bubbles or pock marks with the dust.
Right.
And then I'd go wipe off with the trowel and it would just, the mud would pull all that dust out of the holes, or the dust left from freestanding would thicken up the mud a lot. And
Right.
that used to give me problems as I was trying it. But even with boxing, I know a lot of people look down upon it, but I wipe down after the box.
Hmm.
And that saves me from having to sand anything. So back when I was saying that everything is a trade-off, I
Totally.
spend extra time wiping down after the box, but the next box day, I don't have any lap marks or anything to sand out. So, I spend time here, save it here. So either way,
I
it's just how I
that
do it.
the argument of wiping down behind your boxes, I think all kind of stems from when you run a box and it's not on like a 4 or a 5, you're leaving a crown, right? When you wipe that crown away, you've kind of done yourself a disservice. But did you need it there in the first place? Like, was the box actually set properly on your dial for what you needed, as opposed to are you just doing it because that's the way you do it? Because like not Dominic, Damien out in France wipes behind everything. And when I run the boxes, I come this way and then I double back because I'm laying
Hmm.
down any air pockets the other way.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
you're wiping behind your box, you really only got to get that mud on the ceiling. And then you come and lay it down with the pole. So it's the same passes that I'm doing, except you're changing tools. Like
Exactly.
like you're not saving any time through the process, but what you are saving time on is not having to pre-sand. So it is again one of
Well,
those like give and takes.
when you're boxing any flat up against an angle, do you have to go back and fill in that little area where the box doesn't quite reach into that apex? Or do
Not
you just box it
usually.
and you're done? Okay.
So it depends how much time I have. If I'm on a big site where I'm going to be drowning, I know that I'm going to leave the Christmas trees there and I'm going to come back and sand that down tomorrow. But I
Okay.
also do so I'll do 8 and then 12, and then I'll run my angles, and then I'll come back with my 14. Here's my angle. I put the box just outside of that angle and start it. So
Okay.
what I'm left with is a very small gap,
Hmm.
but then I just come in and tie that in at the end of the day and we're good. Um, I think trying to like, I don't think you're going to bang on every time. Like you said, it doesn't get all the way into the apex, right? For that finish coat. Like you're every
Well,
coat's gonna,
maybe it, yeah, yeah. But I think my box work is probably pretty sloppy if somebody came and watched me because I don't really care because I know I'm wiping it down after.
Right.
And I see people do it so many different ways. And like if you got a can or some kind of outlet in the way of the box, I
Hmm.
see a lot of people go up to it, stop, and then put the box on the other side and continue to go, and then tie it all in when they go back to do handwork.
Right.
I don't do that. I just freaking run and swipe it over, and it kind of looks like shit. But when I take the tomahawk over it on the ceiling or a knife on the wall, it's all done. I don't. It's already filled, so I didn't have to be very precise with the box and try to make that look mint because I'm gonna fix it right now with a knife as I wipe over it, whereas somebody else is gonna go fix it after when they're doing all their handwork tying. And so it's the same amount of time. It's just I do it now, you do it later, you do it now, I do it later. I mean, I don't know. But I would really, I would love to work with another finisher that has a lot more experience behind these tools because,
Yeah.
I'm watching Instagram. This is how this guy does it. I'm going to try to replicate it. But to have somebody say, no, 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 why are you doing it that way? Just do this. Oh, why didn't I think of that?
So
Oh,
I'm very good at keeping my mouth shut. And when I'm working with other people, almost everybody I work with, I'm like, the fuck are you doing it that way for? But I don't voice it. I just wait. And then the next day and the next day, you're like, oh, okay, because you
that's
didn't
why.
need to or whatever. And there's a lot of things that I see people doing that I don't take with me. But there is a lot of things that I end up taking with me, like little tiny things where you're
Hmm.
like, that makes a lot of sense. And then you kind of put it in your bag. And then you go to the next person and you go to the next person. I've kind of been like collecting little tricks over the
Yep,
last
yep.
2 years, right? And I if it wasn't for that, there's no fucking way my work would look the way that it is, right? Because it's like little bits of everybody all over the place, as opposed to
Yeah,
like
that's the best way, man.
um I referred to finishing as like jujitsu this year, where there are like masters of the trade. And at the end of the day, you're still going to submit the guy because it's jujitsu, but how this guy does it and that guy does it and that guy does it is all different, right? Like everybody has a different process. So whatever school you learn from is the way that you do it. But it's different than somebody else's and somebody else's and somebody else's. So when I started learning from all the different schools, you kind of go, okay, there are some things here that are overlapping a lot, and there are some things here that are not. And sometimes it's the thing that's really weird that works the best. And sometimes it's not, where it's like, A, B, and C in your process is kind of fucking weird, but D and E, I'm keeping those.
Hmm.
And just like what you're saying, it's just, and no other industry does that. Electricians don't go around working with other electricians to see how they bend their conduit and like all this shit. Like, no, nobody's
Yeah,
fucking doing that, right? But this is one of those trades where if you got 20,000 board feet, it doesn't mean you have to work on top of each other, but you could split a house.
hmm.
And then throughout the day, you can kind of stick your head in. You know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
And I don't think you get that in a lot of places. Um, because finishing is one of those things that, at least in my opinion, if you want it to be like the best, you kind of have to do it on your own because you're running over the last coat. If it's not the way you do it, it throws your process off. Like you were
Yeah,
saying with the nail spotter, running the nail spotter through the band now gives you subtle variations, and when your box comes over it, that box carries
yeah,
those variations, right? And then it throws everything off. So it's kind of like once you have your process and your understanding, you really do have to be the guy that comes after. Like on this site that I just did with Brad, we both ran the 8-inch box, no problem. And then
is that the way he does it on his own?
well, he took it from there. So he ran the 12 and the 14 himself because all we were doing was filling the bevel first day. Anybody can
But
do
no, no,
that.
I mean on his jobs, does he go 8, 12, 14,
Yes.
or 8, 10, 12? Or okay, okay.
Yeah. At least I think. I mean, when you kind of have the plethora of tools that he has, I think, if he needed to do something different, he probably would. But that process of 8, 12, 14, at least in my opinion, is that 8-inch is going to fill that bevel 100%. And then the reason I don't go to a 10 after that, I go to a 12 is because if one is lifted, like one of your bevels is lifted, I can adjust. I got another 2 inches
Right,
to,
right,
to
right.
be able to do I want it higher, lower, and then the 14 on top of that, you can do it again.
Yeah.
So it's where you're placing the mud as opposed to what tools you're using.
Well,
But
would you say that out of all these people that you've traveled around and worked with over the past couple of years, would you say the majority of them are doing a two-step box process or three?
it's different. Um, I don't want to say the highest quality stuff, but I want to say the most impressive work is always a 3 coat system to me.
Okay.
And I only say that because, again, that first coat, I'm just filling the bevel. The second coat, you're coating it, and I could leave it that way, but sand days would be a pain in the ass, and there would be touch-ups. That third coat, to me, in my process, is making sand day better. That's all it is. And I would rather spend a full day skimming than a full day sanding. Like I want to expedite that process of like it's predictable. I know that this is flat. I know that it is not pocked up and scratched and humpy and all this other kind of shit. Because with a 2 box process, again, my opinion, you're dumping extra mud. Like because you've got to make up for it somewhere. That's just my opinion. Where it 3 nice layers or a big hump and then another hump that you're trying to kind of fix and then you sand it all down. If that makes sense, like you're in a 2 coat process, I can't imagine you're running that final box on a 5.
No, I'm doing two or three on each coat.
Okay. 3 is that standard for me, where that's flat. That's what the box is supposed to do is flat on a 3. Um, so what your finish would look like would be like the end of my second day finish. I just like that third one because running a 14-inch box, you don't have to fill it very often because you're not leaving that much mud. But what you are doing is going from this point and this point, I know is skimmed and on a 4 or
Mhm.
a 5, depending, right? So it really is more about one, making it look straighter and nicer, like just because of Instagram. But
Yeah, I think
the
that's the only reason.
that final coat day for me is sanding. Is
Hmm.
is it's just more predictable. I know that it is what it is everywhere. Same with my butt joints get 4 coats, and I think that's stupid too because there are guys like you out there banging them out in 2. That's half the time,
Not with a box. I'm not.
right?
I can't see anybody doing it in two coats with a box, really.
No, because like that's the other thing with running the box is people want to run it wide open on either side. Well, you've created 2 mountains now. When you look down a wall, you want it to be flat. You don't want it to be a big hump out that you've like the illusion of flat is what we do as a profession. But
Hmm.
I run mine on like a 2 and then I come back on my second coat on either a 2 or a 3. Um,
Do you use butt board at all?
I'd like
Have you
to,
played around with
but
that? Yeah,
but I don't board enough. I just don't do it anymore. It doesn't pay enough for
yeah.
me. Um, but I've used it and it's impressive.
Hmm.
It's a lot less mud's used for sure.
Yeah, I use butt board on all of the projects that I hang myself, but
Okay.
I do quite a bit of finishing for another drywall contractor whose hangers and builders don't pay for it. They don't really know how to market it, but I just wish it would become an industry standard. I
Hmm.
really do. It's a phenomenal product, and I've always said that and FiberFuse are the two greatest innovations in the drywall industry in the last 20 years.
Yep.
Um, but I mean, you'll still always have traditional butt joints over headers and spanning beams and stuff like that. But butt joints are just, man, they're a pain in the ass to me. No two are the same. They always take. I mean, you could go through a house and just bust out seams all day and not have to think twice.
Hmm.
The butt joints are always like, do I need a little more here? Or how wide do I need to make this? It's just I don't see how anybody's doing those in two coats with a box.
No.
You know, you say,
And
oh, four, that's a lot, but that's what it takes, really. If you want a mint butt joint,
and I
it's going to
and
take it.
that's why all of my butt joints get all those coats, because it's like I kind of was like the worst possible butt joint situation. How would I do that? And then I just fucking do it on every one, and I don't have to think about it. I don't care if one's side's higher than the other because I understand that I am creating this around something this big. And
Mm-hmm.
every single one is the same. I get that motion of like, we're going to skim every butt. We're going to do this for every butt. We're going to do that every butt. It's like that hesitation of like, okay, how am I going to handle this? It's just faster to fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, because I would overanalyze and I'd be like, oh, and every once in a while you make the wrong decision, you blow it, and then now you've put in all this work on a site to make it mint, and that one butt joint fucking sucks. And maybe nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows, but I do, and you know that you left it. And yeah, the painter's gonna paint it. Everything's probably looks amazing, but
Yeah.
it's that did you do your best kind of thing, right?
But you ever
N-
wonder, like, yeah, I've noticed this on a couple jobs where you try your best to make the butt joint look good, and sanding day pops around, and you're kind of looking at it, and some looks a little hump there, and you put a straight edge up on it, and it's rocking, and you're like, oh shit. You try to make it better, skim it out, you get the heat gun out, and then you realize there's probably studs and joists all over this freaking house that are worse rocked than that butt joint is. You
100%.
just don't see it because you don't pay any attention to the middle of the sheet, but nobody ever sees them. You feel bad about them, but nobody ever sees it.
No, and I mean I've been on sites too where I'm like, that thing looks fucked. And then and nothing comes of it. Right?
Yeah.
It's acceptable. Like that's the other part of it is there's guys out there banging out houses for 35 cents and they're running through it. It's touch ups the next day kind of thing. Like,
Hmm.
there's ways of doing it, man. And that like what does the homeowner care about? They don't give a fuck, man. If I
No.
came in and said I'll give you 25 cents less a board foot to do two coats and you deal with it, they'd all go mint.
Hmm.
Unless it's a super custom, like,
Yeah, yeah,
there
yeah,
are
yeah.
particular people out there, but I don't think they give a shit, man. Like nobody's asking the painter what kind of roller he's using and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm still in love with it finishing. Like it's
I'll
still
be honest
very
though, the one thing that annoys me the most about this whole industry, the trade, is how little the customer, the homeowner, how little care they put into drywall. Because they get the house framed and they can start to see everything take shape, and then the drywallers come in and they don't give a shit. To them, that's just hurry up so I can start picking out my cabinets and my floors. And the thing that they don't realize is that drywall covers more visible footage than any other trade in the house.
right.
Interior. There's like, I think it's like 80% of the visible interior of a home is drywall. And they spend the least amount of care on who they're hiring, how much they're paying, what kind of job they're getting. They're not comparing apples to apples because not everybody is going to do. They just give me a price for drywall. You look at any other trade, look at their contract or their proposal, their scope of work. It
Yep.
is so freaking detailed. Drywall, hang, tape, finish, sand,
Yeah.
texture.
Make it
Here's your
white.
price. Okay,
Yeah.
are you vacuuming out your outlet boxes? Are you scraping your floors? Are you using butt board? What kind of beads are you using? Using nails or screws, fiber fuse? What are you going to do here? What are you going to do here? They pay no attention to that. None.
No,
It's just hurry up and drywall, get the crew in there so we can come back and start looking at what kind of colors we're going to choose. And it's like, you realize that I mean, you're going to get a cheap price and feel super happy,
yeah,
right? But the problem you're going to get, you're going to stare at that for years. It's going to bug you for years. You might be happy for a week that you paid X amount less, but look what you got for it. People need to start really caring more about drywall and about what you can do with drywall. All the different trim text details that are available, all the
totally.
different things that are out there. It's not just throw a board and put up a metal bead anymore. You know,
This
with fresco and all these different products that are
mhm.
available now. I would like to see a little more attention paid to the to the trade and in the job and the things that can be done with it, you know?
Well,
That's
no,
just my 2 cents.
that really falls, and I fully agree because I do that. We walked into this site and I walked through with the customer, took a look at everything. Everything looks pretty good. Anything you're worried about, blah, blah, blah. I got $1,300 in extras because we wanted bullnose.
Hmm.
And to do that properly is a process. You got to cut
Oh,
it
I do a
back,
lot of bullnose, man.
right? Glue
Half of
it,
my jobs are bullnose.
staple it, and then
Yep.
you've got these returns back to the window. Okay, are you doing tearaway bead there? What's tearaway bead?
Hmm.
And I see there's a fireplace, and then you got two punch-ins beside the fireplace. And my first question was like, do you know about fresco?
Hmm.
Because if you don't, and this is just going to be a flat wall, wouldn't that be dope? And like I would have fucking
Hmm.
done it for free just to do it.
Hmm.
But I mean, if you're not doing that kind of stuff, like these are all of your options.
They don't
No,
know the
like
options.
no, and no plumber comes in and goes, okay, here's your shower, there's the faucet, see you later. They go, how many? How many do you want a rain head? Do you want this? Do you want an electronic whatever? Like, do you want something to wash your feet? Like, I don't know, like all the different things, right? Uh, it's setting your client up to what is it you're expecting? Do you know about all the options? And I love telling people the options and them going, no, like, good, because I don't want to fucking do it either. But
Well, I see, I'm opposite. I want to do those things. I get
yeah,
so bored just doing square houses all the time.
I
Half of
enjoy
my
it.
builders, half of my builders do bullnose, half of them do square.
Okay.
And when I get a call from the majority of my work is homeowner GCs
Right.
because building out here is like a 2 year wait list. Um,
Wow. Hmm.
it's insane. So most people just take it upon themselves to GC their own jobs. And believe it or not, my area that I live in is primarily texture. That's what everybody here does.
Right.
And I came from New England where everything was smooth. I moved down here and I very quickly became the go-to guy for smooth finishing because that's what I've done my whole career.
Right.
Um, so I tend to just stay with homeowner GCs. I can make more money, and these people are moving here from areas where smooth is their norm,
Hmm.
and that's what they want. They want what they're used to. So I work for them, and I ask them on every job when I come in there. I measure the job, and then I give them the sales pitch, the butt board, the bullnose transition into square, all
Right.
these different add-ons that I can ask for, and half of them are like, "What do you mean bullnose? I get round? I've never seen that before. That's interesting. Do you have a sample? Yup. Back of my truck. Pull up the sample boards.
Yeah.
But the big thing lately to me is have you seen the truss angle backing from Trimtex?
I've not touch and feel, but I have seen it.
So I posted a video using that. You know what the product is.
Yes.
You know the point of it, right? So okay, I
Why don't you do the walkthrough for people that don't know?
all right, so the truss angle backer is basically just a 90-degree piece of vinyl.
Right.
You put that up before you hang, tight to the trusses, and you screw it into the wall. Okay, so now when you hang your drywall on the ceiling, you're screwing it into that piece of vinyl. So your fastening connection point is not into the truss, it's into the wall. So
Right.
the truss can independently move, which it will, which it's designed to do. It can move without creating corners there. I posted a video of doing that. I've posted a couple stories. I've talked to people about that, and all of them, the exact same thing. You're wasting time. You're wasting time. How is it a waste of time if I'm making money? I
Yes.
go into the job. Do you have any idea how many people turn down that service when I add that as an add-on? Oh, here's another package you can pay for. It's trust prevention. I
Right.
take them through the sales pitch. I have documents from Trim Text already printed out that I hand the customer, and it's this much per stick. It's
Hmm.
this much to do that. And I'm not doing closet walls or anything like
No.
that. But as soon as a customer, a potential client hears this will never crack, and I pull up pictures on my phone of jobs I've taken with screw pops and all the corners and everything like that. And obviously, it's not for everybody. Spec home builders are not going to pay for this, whatever.
No.
But it's not a waste of time if it's an upsell, and it's a phenomenal product. So I mean, you tell a homeowner about this, or even a lot of builders, do you want this? They've never heard of it before.
Right.
Trimtex, I don't think really markets it that well. Not a lot of people even know what it is, but that's what I mean. Like I was going back to before, there's so many different products out there that people have no idea about.
They
Because homeowners aren't on Instagram following drywall pages,
right.
so they don't know.
And I mean, even out of all the, let's say 100%, or let's say there's 100 people online doing it, you know, 80% of them aren't pitching those products. 80% of those are not using them because they're not pitching them, because they're not getting the add-on. So it's not even like you're seeing it everywhere. Like
Mm,
you really do need to give the option. And don't get me wrong, I always want to do new stuff, but I want to be
hmm.
paid for it.
Yeah.
Like this isn't pick whatever corner you like and I'll do it for free, because that's not how the world works. Like this takes more time, more care. I've got to make sure that it's the miters are correct. Like I have to put time into this to make it as good as what you're expecting, and I don't do that for free.
Well, I did it for free. The
Yeah,
first job I used it on, my Trimtex rep came to my job, dropped off a box. I set up a bunch of cameras. I told the homeowner, I'm going to give you this product for free.
dope.
I'm just going to try it out. I'm going to take some photos to be able to add to my, my package that I give clients to, because I need to show them what it is. And I didn't pay for the box. The Trimtex rep gave it to me. So, and it doesn't take long to install those. You could do a whole house in a half an hour.
Hmm.
It's I mean it's cutting bead. It's freaking snips and a screw gun. And they don't have to be tight. I mean, you're not doing trim here, so it's mint quick. But I mean you could charge decent for it. Because when you're doing a house for 10 grand and you tell the customer, hey, you want to spend an extra $350 to have your corners not crack? It's
Hmm.
nothing to them, and it takes you half an hour to put it up, and it makes drywalling easier because now you can screw anywhere. You
Yeah,
don't have to go
you're
mark your trusses,
it's gonna hit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And trust lift is a big problem, man. You could do the
It is.
best possible thing that you could do process wise, use the
Mhm.
best products. And at the end of the day, if you're screwing into that truss, like even 6 inches away from the wall, you have a chance of truss lift. It's just the way that it is. Like if you're in there, man, and you want it
And
right up against the wall. Like I want my 3.5 to cover screws, and I want the next one to be far enough away that I can hit it with the fucking spotter, man. Like I don't want to
mhm,
be overlapping shit. The amount of houses that I go through, and there's a screw on the edge of my 3.5, and
mhm,
it's like, why, man? Like, it just figure out your shit. You know what I mean? But it all
mhm,
comes down to care too. Like, if you're bringing in some guy at half the price of what it's supposed to be, he's just trying to get it done because he has to. He's got to do twice the
mhm.
work because he charged you half the amount of money, and you get into rushing, man. That and
You know,
if
the
you're
guys
not,
that put the bottom screw like freaking 7 inches up off the ground.
yeah, it's like, dude, why you make me bend over? Like that is so stupid.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, you're never gonna find a beautiful artist that's like, I gotta get this fucking painting done. Like it's just never gonna happen.
yeah.
It's a love thing. Like you're
Mhm,
passionate about it. That's why it's good. And I think that that's a big service that life has given me at this point is I'm still in love with the process. I'm still
mhm.
super passionate about it. It's still fun. I talk to a lot of people that they're like, I just do it because it's my fucking job. And it's
I
like,
have I have those days, and then I have your days. Who
yeah,
was it that said it's a famous quote? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
yeah,
I forget who said it, but it's one of those
yeah. They lied,
quotes. But
but it
yeah, I
makes
mean,
it easier.
yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know, man. I just it's some days I hate it, but then I think, what else would I be doing? I couldn't work in an office.
No.
I mean, I get to do what I want. I get to show up when I want, leave when I want, take as long a breaks as I want. I get a chance to go to different places. I'm not driving to the same place every day. I do enjoy it. I like trying to do a good job, trying new things, and the whole comment you made before about the Instagram photos, the straight lines. I find that so funny because we all shoot for that.
Yeah.
We look at these photos of the drywall gangsters and these mint jobs, right? And we want to do that, but it's like at the end of the day, when it's painted and these people move in, it's all the same work. It doesn't fucking matter. I just find it funny that you aspire to get these lines and it's who cares? You're gonna
So
sand it, it's gonna look like crap anyway.
year one, I said that um, anybody can make a passable where there's no issues. right?
Yeah.
Anything above and beyond that is like a dick measuring competition of
Yeah, yeah, pretty
look how much
much.
fucking time I took to make this perfect, and then
Yeah, yeah.
expediting that process of how quickly can I do it. So, but when you have a perfectly straight coat and then another perfectly straight coat and then another perfectly straight coat, sanding's very easy because there's
I don't think so.
no,
I don't think it's any different.
yeah, it's my only experience in
I
it.
could be all over the place with a trowel and just I mean, all right, take a peek at this. You notice how the most phenomenal looking finishing jobs that people post on social media are always done pre-sand?
Oh, of course.
Why? Because after you sand it, it all looks like piss anyway.
Yeah.
It's all uneven, and you're running into the flats when you're sanding screws, and there's more mud taken out. Everything's a snake. It looks like shit. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's whether you ran your box mint and it's laser straight or it's a little curvy, it's taken pay, it's flat, it's painted. The guy got his check. It's all the same shit, dude. But you
That
still shoot for it, right?
that
You
aesthetics is
still
for
try.
us. That's for
Yeah,
us. That's
yeah.
not for
Nobody
anybody
else.
else. No.
No.
And I mean, I think there's
They
benefits
don't
to it.
see when we do a good job, but they see if we do a bad job.
100%. And I've run boxes and not done a good job.
Hmm.
There's variations, and then now you kind of figure it out. Like when you run a box on something and the box run looks weird, it's because there's something weird going on. It's not because
Hmm.
in that specific part you did something wrong, right? So then you gotta move your box over a little bit, or maybe that's the high point, and I've got to focus on that high point, not the bevel. You know what I mean? Like there are things that you can figure out, but I mean, dude, people troweled work forever and it all turned out fine.
Hmm.
It kind of comes down to the person that's doing it gave a shit or they didn't. And the people
Hmm.
that don't give a shit, it doesn't matter what tools you're using. If you don't care, it's not going to come out like you cared. And that's kind of the thing. I also like hearing from the painter. And I like hearing from the customers where they come in and go, I've never seen this before. Like, why? Like it almost doesn't make sense to them why you would do that. But it's impressive. Like
You know, it's funny. No, go ahead.
when a builder is had enough with their last taper, and then you come in and do a job like that, and they come in and go, holy shit, that's the difference. Because
Hmm.
yeah, at the end of the day, when it's sanded and stuff, that's different, man. But then when it's painted, it looks the way that it does. But there's like a certain this guy cares, right?
Hmm.
And that's the guy that I want to hire for the next job. Like at least
Hmm.
for me. And I mean, when you botch, it's not perfect. They don't fucking know that. Like we know that because we're all
Hmm.
like hypercritical about each other's shit because it's impressive, right? Or you're trying to figure out how to do it yourself, so you're really looking at it, or something like that. The customers don't. I just think the clean lines is presentable. Like when your job is done, it's very presentable.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's really the only reason I use nail spotters. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
It looks so nice.
it does. A
You
three
know,
inch
I
nail
got no
spotter is
problem doing it
mint.
by hand.
No,
It
and
is.
and tons of people do it by hand, and it's probably faster. Like if you watch the Gilberts do their nail spot,
Hmm.
it's by hand, and they're fucking
Yeah,
lightning fast at it.
yeah.
Whack, whack,
It is.
whack, whack,
It
whack.
is.
If I had the same amount of mud on a 6 inch that they have on their 6 inch and tried to do my nails, it would be fucking everywhere. Like it is their process. Like they've got enough on there to do a whole row. You know what I mean? It's super fast. Like they've figured it
Mhm.
out. I don't think the nail spotter, I think it bridges the gap. I think a lot of these tools bridge the gap of like, do you want to be straight and good right now today? Because you can do that with a nail spotter. It's faster, like to bridge that gap, but it's not a
Uh,
necessity.
no, but it is. I see the a huge benefit, and of course, I don't have anybody that works for me anymore. Um, but if you were trying to train a new guy, I
Totally.
mean, it takes forever to get a guy going where he can just operate the mud on whether hawk or trowel, whatever he's using. It takes forever to train somebody, and oh, it's just you want to rip your hair out. Like, dude, come on. Are you gonna get this or what? But you give them a nail spotter and they can figure it out real fast, you know?
Well, and
So that's a benefit.
what you're gonna fuck up on a nail spotter, you can scrape off with a knife or you can sand. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that is a super easy apprentice tool of like it's nobody. I don't know if people enjoy doing screws. I don't. And
No, I don't
on
either.
the last four sites, I don't even first coat them until the 12-inch box is on. I just don't care. Like I don't. I fuck
Fuck it, just don't coat them at all.
it's a fucking nuisance. I don't like doing it. And I
Yeah.
know that I can first coat it on 12 day. And then when I come back for final skim, I can do two coats of screws. Like I can
Mhm.
do the two and the three on the same day.
Yeah, but then you're taking something you hate and you got to do it twice in one day. Just get it over with.
Yeah, but then you just get it over with that one day,
I
man.
I always get the shit I don't want to do the most over with first.
Which is smart.
This is gonna suck. This is gonna suck. I'm getting that, dude. I'm starting with the garage. I'm doing that high ceiling. I'm getting this out of the fucking way.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's just me.
Cam was one of those guys that would look at the shittiest thing that we were going to do on site, and it was the first fucking thing that he did every time.
Yep.
Because it's
Yep.
like nobody wants to do this. Let's get it out of the way. And I'm the procrastinator that's like, I know that I'm going to focus on this and try and make it perfect. I'm going to do it last. And it bites you in the ass every time
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
then you're rushed, man. Like you don't know what's going to happen in that process where, you know, day 5 and 6, I know I'll have time. Well, you don't know shit
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you don't
Exactly.
know what's fucking
Yeah.
going to happen, right? Yeah, it's interesting, man. But that all comes down to people and their techniques too. Like, getting the shitty stuff out of the way first, the rest of the site's fun.
Hmm.
And I mean that at the end of the day, at least for me, that's what I'm doing it for. It's fun. I'd make more money doing other shit, man. I
Oh yeah.
would.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm getting real close to there now. But for 2 years, I've been fucking eating shit and doing 12 and 16-hour days to try and figure things out. And like, you're never gonna do that in an office, man. Like running major sites as a site super is an 8-hour deal.
Hmm.
And you come in tomorrow and do another 8 hours and go home. No one's ever gonna be like, hey, we're gonna double your day today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's never gonna happen, you know?
No, I can't imagine 16-hour days, dude. Oh,
They're dirty, man, but you got
no.
to stop for a big lunch. You got to stop for whatever that progression is. I've got it on my stories. It's a 22-hour day. I jump between three different sites like it was a fucking go day, and sometimes you got to go. But
Yeah.
when you don't have a solid process and you don't have everything locked down, sometimes you got to fucking do it, man. And the more you can stop that from happening, the better, obviously with skill and planning and those types of things. But that first 2 years were brutal, man. Like no
Yeah.
weekends,
I've done it, but I can't do it anymore.
and you don't need to. Like
There's
you're,
all there's always still I mean I remember 2 o'clock in the morning at a job because I didn't want to come back the next day, and then I'm
yeah,
like, it fucking is the next day. It's 2 a.m. Like, why am I here? Yeah, I've done them, but I just I can't anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with where I moved to.
okay.
I'm in such a rural small town, and when I moved here, the first job that I did, um, I came into town and I called the sorry to jump so freaking
No,
far
I
in the
love
middle
it.
of
No,
nowhere, but
that's what this is for.
I called the local drywall supplier, and it's the only place in the county to buy drywall. And I said, I need a list of everybody that has an account with you. And I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna take this home and just start calling, looking for work. First guy called, yeah, come on out, meet me. I got a job for you could finish. And I didn't know how booming construction was here and how little drywall companies there were. So the guy's like, yeah, I got a house for you. Here's the address. I'll meet you there in the morning. I'm like, all right. So I'm there, 7 o'clock on stilts, taping. And he shows up at 9. And I'm like, I thought you said to meet you here in the morning. He goes, yeah. I said, it's 9 o'clock. Well, that's what time I get to the job in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck? And a
Cool,
lot of
bro.
people here, 3 o'clock, they're out of there. People are just, it's simple, slow, small town here. And I love it because I don't have to stress anymore, man. You know, I don't even look for my next job till my the one I'm on is done,
Really?
and yeah, I'm not concerned because I just hit the road. If something's not ready, as soon as I'm done with this house, I jump in my RV and I hit the road. I'll come back into town when the next job's ready.
That's
Life's too short, you know.
that's fascinating because that's a hell of a way to
Yeah,
do it.
I gotta. I missed too much working. I
Yeah,
missed a lot of my daughter's childhood working, and
same.
I don't want to do it no more. You
Yeah,
know?
and I mean, it's starting to sound like Brad's going to be part of the team now, where he's just going to be there. And he has like the come and go as you please, but having an extra body on site, like we our tape day, I was at home, showered, and then laid down in bed and looked at my watch and it was like fucking 5 o'clock. And I was like, what do I do with myself now? Like, like, oh, this is when people have family time,
Yeah,
and this is
exactly.
when people eat dinner. I would love to either get
It's
to the
normal,
point,
Sean.
well, yeah, right. And it's like,
Yeah.
I was so wound up about the fact that we were all going to starve and die when I went out on my own that it was just like, okay, I'm never going to let that happen. And to the point now where it's like, dude, that's not going to happen. Like
No,
if I did one decent site a month, that would cover all my bills. So what am I doing four sites for?
that's what
Right?
I say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would like to like smash two sites a month or like do reasonable hours, three sites a month or something. You know what I mean? Like I would much rather have a week that I'm not working in a month now than try and stuff in a bunch of stuff that's going to bump into the next one and your whole life is stressful and you're eating out 3/4 of the time because you don't have time to do groceries and you're fucking like when I
Hmm.
come home, you come down the stairs and my laundry room is before you get into the basement apartment. I strip down there and when there's a pile, I throw it in. You know what I mean? Like I don't even wash regular human clothes because I never wear them. Like
Yeah,
it,
it's
I
all work
call
clothes.
my jeans and like my nice shirts, I refer to them as my adult clothes because it just never happens. Like I'll put a t-shirt on to like go out to dinner and then I hang it back up
Hmm.
because I wore it for an hour.
That's about it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
Life of a taper.
but that way that you're looking at things like in the next couple of years, man, people are going to understand that if you want the type of quality that is top tier, it takes time and it takes money and you shouldn't have to kill yourself to do it. Like, yeah, well, these guys, they'll get it done in a week. Yeah, they'll come and do a shitty job in a week. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing shitty work, man. If somebody asked me to do a 2-coat job, I would tell them no. I'd be like, sorry,
Yeah.
dude, I can do a 3-coat job and we can talk
I'm
about
not the guy for
price,
you.
but I'm
Hmm.
not that fucking guy. I do not do
Hmm.
shitty work. And that feels good now, where people will talk to me about process and say that it's too much or it's too much effort or too much timeline or too much anything. And my answer
See
is
ya.
then I'm not the guy. Go
See
find
ya.
that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and sure, as there's slow times for sure. But I'm
Well,
not
that's why
doing
I typically turn down spec houses. There's a lot of
hmm
those around here, and you know how those go. They just want
Yep.
cheap, hurry up. And I'm like, dude, I'm a one man show. I mean, there is no hurry up. It's this is I got two hands. That's it. And
hmm
if you're looking for a 10 crew, whatever, that's who you need to call. I'm not the guy for you. And I don't want to do spec houses
No.
because nobody cares,
No,
you know.
I
But
I really like doing
sometimes you have to.
customs. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like when I started this whole venture, I thought that I was going to get into townhouses and I was going to
Hmm.
sharpen that knife. And everybody that I talked to about it was because I looked at the money, it's like 50 cents or something. But if you could do 10,000 a week and, you get fast, and the more people I talked to about it, it just became very apparent that all I was going to do was create bad habits and I was going to find the things that I could leave shitty that no one talked about. Like, I'm just not looking to do that.
Hmm.
I want to walk away from everything that I put my hands on and go, that was the best that I could have done, or
Yep, exactly.
or there was a learning curve, like is something
Hmm.
new or something that didn't turn out, but I know for sure that won't happen again, right? As
Hmm.
opposed to like there's six things and hopefully they find three of them. I'm not into it, you know?
Yeah.
And there are guys that are into it, man. I've met a bunch of people like the Mutter's Touch is a fucking musician. He's not a drywaller. Like his profession is that he is a drummer. He's a musician.
Oh,
He
really? I didn't know that.
he drywalls because he's like a second or third generation drywaller. He's a 20-year guy.
Hmm.
He's very good at it. But that's not what he wants to do. You know what I mean? I want to do this. I've decided. I've taken a pay cut. I've put the time in, right? Like this is what I want to be doing because I'm having fun. Um, you've got guys out there that aren't doing that. They're just trying to feed their fucking kids, man. And at the end of the day, you got to drop your prices when you're trying to feed your kids. You got to take on shit that you don't want to do, and then it becomes this miserable fucking thing. And when you bring that home to the kid life, you're doing everybody a
Oh, yeah.
disservice doing that, right?
Yeah.
And some
Hmm.
people are stuck to, man. Like there's always going to be that, but it's just you got to decide that that's not going to be you, and just don't fucking
Well,
do it.
that's why I moved, man. We packed up, sold everything we owned, moved into our camper, and came out here. And when we got here, it was like the first time I was ever home every night for dinner, and
Hmm.
in a straight week. And I was like, this is awesome. I don't want to change this. Because nobody on their deathbed, Sean, nobody ever is on their deathbed going, I wish I did more drywall,
No.
right? Nobody says that at the end. There's more to life than just playing in the mud.
Yeah.
I mean, but everybody's chasing something different too. I mean, there's a lot of young kids out there that are money hungry and they're hustlers and they got the energy and the young bodies to go nonstop. But with no kids or no, nothing, if there's nothing else to do. I mean, sure, on Saturdays I'll work if I got nothing else planned, but I mean, I don't know, you get
Dude,
older and you start figuring out what's more important, and that's what you shoot for,
my
I got
life,
goals, man. I got things I'm aiming for.
that's the most important part because it's not like you live this lackluster experience of like, I'll get it done when it gets done. It's like as long as you've got goals and you've got things that you're trying to do and the way that you work, you can do it. Why would you do anything different? Like it's not like, if you're in a room full of finishers and you say, I work 8 hours a day, full stop, they're all going to look at you like, but you could get more done. It's like, yeah, but my plan it accounts for my 8 hours a day. So that's my
Hmm.
plan and it works. And there's a lot of guys out there and girls that are lost, man. They don't have a fucking plan. They don't know what they're aiming towards. They're just going to work to work. And I got to get this one done so I could start the next one. But if you don't have something that you're aiming at, you're going to do that forever. Like
But some of them are happy with that. That's what some people
100%.
want.
Yeah.
I talked to there's a kid on the job that I'm doing now. He was doing the gutters, and he's 19 years old. I talked to the kid for like a few days, and I didn't realize how young he was, and he didn't realize how old I was. And I'm like, "How old are you, dude?" And he's like, "I'm 19." He's on the job till like 7 o'clock every night. I leave, and he's still going, and then he's back the next day. I'm like, "You finished the gutters?" "Oh, I got the homeowner to let me do the trimmer on the doors, and now I'm fixing this thing." And I'm like, "Dude, you're gonna be off on your own like in no time at all." I was like, "You got the drive, you got the hustle." He's like, "I don't have anything else to do. I don't have a family. I'm young. I got nothing else to do but work. So." I'm here till dark. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. You're going places. Some people want that, Some
Yeah.
people don't, but there are some people who need to work nonstop. Otherwise, maybe they get themselves into some trouble, or
Jeez.
maybe whatever their reasoning is. But it's just not my thing. You know
Yeah.
what I got to do this next year, these next 12 months. My focus. I want to try some of those collaborations.
Yeah.
I see all these people out there traveling, different jobs, learning from different people, and I want to get in on some of that. So that's my goal for the next year.
I mean, give me
And
a month and pull the trigger. You are always welcome with me. And
yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun.
I think you would be shocked the amount of people that would go, I would love that. Because I didn't even have any fucking experience when I started doing it. So when you come in as like a force to be reckoned with, that's something that's a real benefit to have somebody on their site. Like I know everybody and I have all the cool tools and like all that other kind of shit. Like I get it, but having somebody that's a 20-year guy going, "Hey, I want to come and help you with a site," that's a huge benefit for whoever else is doing it. Like if I'm taking a look at a 15,000 board foot house, I know exactly how long that's going to take me. And then
Hmm.
I know exactly how long that's going to take me with a second guy. And it's like a third of the time because you're not stopping and switching and doing all these things. You've got two people going the same time. Like it speeds you up
Yeah.
immensely.
Hmm.
And then you just got to wrap your head around like a day rate because that's the best way to do it, unless you're splitting a site, which a lot of guys don't want to do. Like it's you're taking half the money. So you come up with a day rate that makes the most sense and that you can live off of. Like doing the collaboration sites is not a big money maker, but it is if you're
No,
looking
no,
at
but
it,
but it's worth more than just money.
it's
Build
education.
networking, building friendships, learning, trying new like I mean, I was talking to Chad uh weeks back, and he's got one of those North Star tapers.
Hmm.
And we were like, "Hey, where do you live?" And oh, that's only this many hours from me. And oh, one day we should get together. And boom, right there, there's an opportunity for me to go help him if he needs it. I don't know, but then I'd be able to try that taper, see if I like it,
Totally.
or just because there's nowhere around me to buy this stuff to hold it, to physically hold it.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, just and then learn the process. You take something home with you. Maybe you don't make a bunch of money out on the road, but you learn something, you make friends, and I don't know.
I think I,
I see everybody doing it. This one's over here at this job, this one's with this guy, they're all having a good time, and I just don't understand how that works. I gotta learn how all that works because it's what do you do about like, you go to I come to Canada. How does that pay work? Is it, you gonna pay taxes? I mean, how does all this what can you take on a plane? What do you bring? It's a lot of behind the scenes that I gotta figure out.
yeah, you've got to wrap your head around a visa if you're coming to legitimately work. And you can get basically like a vacation visa, which means you can come, you're going to work, but then you're going to go home,
Mhm.
right? You're not coming to stay. Like you're not going to be a citizen, you're not going to go through that process. Like when we stumbled onto that because of the multimedia stuff. Like, how do all these fucking influencers that don't do work make money in other countries? Well, this is how they do it, right? And any dollar amount that you make in a country, you need to be paying taxes on that, right? So,
What
well,
about instead of paying me, you just give your money to CSR and then they give me a credit?
see, totally.
Is that a loophole?
I mean, it is, and
Is
like
it? I don't know.
same with the podcast, man. Like I could go work with Nick, right? And do a bunch of fresco for him, and then Nick, sponsors the podcast or whatever. Like, there's lots of ways around stuff, but I mean,
Ah.
legitimately, take a look into it if you're going to do that kind of stuff. But you're in the States, there's a lot of fucking states in the States. There's a lot of finishers in the States. Like, you don't have to jump the border. And, maybe you come to a site and you work and you don't get paid, but then you go home with a bunch of free tools because you know what I mean?
That'll
Like
work.
there is stuff like that you can do. Like it's the legitimately like being audited and them finding out that you were fucking around is going to kill you because they're not going to go, "Oh, that must have happened once." They're going to go, "How long have you been doing this?" "Well, I've only done it the once." "Can you prove that?" "No." So now every period of time that you've ever taken off to have a vacation, they go, "Okay, so how much did you make that week?" Like
Hmm.
I imagine that it gets vicious. So
Hmm.
you do kind of have to wrap your head around it. Danny's one of these guys. It's like, yeah, I'll come and I don't want to be paid. And you're like, okay, like because you want to come to for the experience, right? That doesn't work for everybody. But
Well, it could in a way for me as long as it's a place I'm going to go to anyway.
mhm,
Like I was talking to the Gilbert sisters, Allison,
yep,
and I found out I had just asked her a question on Instagram, and we ended up talking for like an hour. And I found out she lives like 3 hours away from like one of my top like bucket list places to visit. I didn't even know where she was from. I knew she was from Canada somewhere, but it's like 3 hours away from the spot. So we got to talk. I'm like, oh, that would be awesome if I could drive there and visit this place I've always wanted to see, and then work a week, help you guys out, and freaking, make enough money to get to the next place. And then I was talking to Brandon, sure, Serpro, and
Yep.
he told me where he was, and I'm like, dude, I got a trip planned to go that way in 26. Maybe
Hmm.
I'll swing by, and so if it's en route to a place I'm already planning on visiting, um, you know, I got a goal in my life of visiting all 50 states before my daughter turns 18, and I think I only have like maybe 11 left to go. Um,
Wow.
but we try to travel very often, but some of the places that I have to go to are very far away, and it's like I've already driven these roads before. There's nothing to see on the way for 26 hours.
Yeah.
So something's got to make it worth it to freaking drive all the way out there to see one thing that's on my bucket list. So if I could stop along the way and work, help somebody out, make a friend, and make a little cash to move on, that would be the dream for me. So yeah, that's what this next year is going to be about. But talking to people like you and all these other people, over the course of time, I think I'll learn the legitimate way to figure it out
Hmm.
and go from there. But yeah, definitely me and you gotta tear something up sometime, dude.
Anytime.
I think it'd
Anytime.
be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be fun, man. And like the sites that we're getting are big enough, like if
Even
you're
if they're
gonna get it.
small.
Well, and that's the other part of it too, is like, are you gonna jump in on all these sites and then finish the whole site? Or are you gonna come in for 2 days? You learn some stuff, you meet some people, you move on. Like, there's nothing wrong with that either, man.
Whatever people want, man. As long
Yeah.
as I'm going out to a job where the person actually needs and wants the help. I don't want somebody to like, host this thing. Just like if you need the help, I'm there. I'll do whatever you need. And that's going to be a little tricky for me too. My style of finishing is so different. It's like you were talking before about how to make two things blend together. And you did that with the Surrey project. I can't even imagine how that all happened. I watched all the episodes on that, but that it seemed like that would have been a clusterfuck. Was it?
I mean, if there wasn't an enormous amount of planning prior to going, it would have been. Like,
Yeah.
so I probably had optimistically 60 hours into that site before we even got there. I was
Hmm.
doing meetings, we were doing all the things behind the scenes, right? Like the idea of everybody gets their own room. So my idea in the very beginning was we'll take a hat and put everybody's name in it and make teams. So there's 6 bedrooms upstairs, 6 teams of finishers. Whoever's on your team, you've got to make sure that you get their stuff done too. And then everybody would see everybody's process. In this room,
Hmm.
this is how we do it. In that room, I'll do it your way. And then everybody would get the process down. But it just, with the timeline that was given, and like we were supposed to show up to a house that was fully butt boarded and done immaculately with board. And we showed up, and most of the butt board was put in backwards, if they even fucking used it, which they didn't.
Oh my God.
And the board work was fucked. Like I was there 2 days early doing corrections and still didn't get it all done.
Oh my
Two
God.
2 days. Now 30,000 board feet, 35,000, whatever it was. Like it was a big project. So for one guy or however many of us to do the corrections was a big deal. But what we were supposed to be walking into and what we walked into were very, very different. And then when we were like, okay, how do we do the downstairs? Just collectively, do we do 3 coats? Do we do 2 coats? What boxes do we use? Are we doing 10, 12? Are we doing 12, 14? Like, what are we doing? And then you all just collectively figure it out. I think on those big jobs, there has to be a team lead, and that person's what it is what it is. And so, like when we went to Hayden in Barrie, we flew in Teak. Steve joined us. There's 4 different people with 4 different styles, but whoever's the team lead, this is how we're doing this fucking house. And you have that
Does
conversation prior
typically
to.
the host of the project be the team leader, whoever's
I,
job it is, right?
I would assume, unless they're
Yeah.
like, I think you should to somebody else. And but then at least you've all decided that that's who it is. You know what I mean? You can't have three team leads because when something you get finger pointing is what happens when you have more than
Yeah.
one chief to all the Indians, right? And I think it just comes down to planning. And I said this to Hayden the last time that we had the podcast was like, if you're going to host one of these things, you have to have a plan and you have to be able to lead the team because days get stressful. People, you don't want a pocket of people going, we shouldn't be doing it this way. Like we all agreed what we're doing and now we're doing it. And it just makes the whole thing simpler. And maybe you suck at a certain aspect of it because that's not how you do it. Who fucking cares? Because the other three people here are awesome at it because that's what they do, or two people, or whatever. So, that's one of the biggest things with these collabs is people being unsure of their skill set with things that they don't do, but that's not what it's about. It's about getting together, it's about learning, it's about bettering yourself, not who's the fastest. Like I remember having a conversation with Teak out in Surrey where she was like concerned about the speed of her room. And I was like, listen, if this was a race, we would all lose. Danny Moody is on site. Honestly. Like
Yeah.
and after tape day, I kind of pulled him aside and was like, so how long would that have taken you by yourself? And he was like, less time
Yeah.
because there's no one in his fucking way. It's his process. He starts, he runs, he goes. It's not about that, right? It's about finishing the project and making sure everybody has fun throughout it. And I mean, that's what's attractive to the marketing people is it's not a bunch of people at each other's throats to try and get something done. This is the coolest fucking thing that's happened in drywall in a long time because
Does it
everybody's having a blast.
does it really mess up your plan and how you're going to tackle something? Because you walk into a job or a room and you know how long this should take, right? Did it really mess you guys up having all that filming equipment and stopping and setting up that didn't play a role at all?
So if we were filming ourselves, we wouldn't have gotten it done. There's no way.
Okay.
So again, that goes into the planning. We had Caden, we had Adriana from Trimtex. Like we had multimedia people there. In my opinion, that's how you do it. You have people filming while you work because and you also can't have big lights and all this crazy shit where they're trying to get one perfect video. Like take 100 fucking videos and pick the 10 best ones because
Right.
there's probably 40 or 50 hours of video for that site. You'll never
Oh,
see
I
it.
believe it.
You'll never see it. But
I
what
believe it.
what what you will see is the good stuff. And it's
Yeah.
not that the other stuff was bad, but like maybe the angle was weird, or like maybe, Caden was trying to get a thing and I'm so fucking big that, 3 seconds of the video is my back. Like you don't know. Um, but multimedia people, man, if you're going to be doing things multimedia, it's an asset, right? And for every second that you are setting up a tripod or taking a video or thinking about what the next shot's going to be, leave that to the professional that you're hiring, man.
Well, is that typical for all these collabs that you do, or the majority of them just you guys yourself are filming each
It's
other?
usually just us. Like
Right.
this the Surrey house was a big thing and it was the first and it was like, Aaron's opinion on that thing was I don't care if we fucking blow it. We need to do it and then figure out what worked and what didn't work. Like we just pulled the
Is there going to
trigger.
be more of those?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put my name down. Um, so aside from learning different ways of drywall, learning the new tools in somebody else's system, you're also, I imagine, learning different ways to create content and different filming ideas
Oh,
and
totally. Yeah.
talking to the other influencers about how they do stuff and
Man, in that Barry site, Teak sat us all down and was like, do you guys understand how the algorithm works? And we were like, no. She's like, do you know how
okay.
hashtags work? No. Do you know about posting times? No. Right. So, like, everybody left that site with like a way better knowledge of how Instagram itself works. And it had nothing to do with tools. It had nothing to do with filming. It had nothing to do with any of that. That knowledge of like, because she ground her face into the ground trying to figure this thing out, put in the time, and in a half an hour you can explain it to me. That's a win. You know,
Hmm.
it's things like that. Like I don't know. Like you're that's a good question because I think from some of these things, not everything that I took away from it had to do with doing the job. It
Right.
was like, what about this? What about that? How do you, whatever, right? Or just having the conversation of like, why do you do it this way? Right. And it's not on site. It's typically like after dinner or something, and everybody's sitting around just shooting the shit. Or like after the Black Friday, Danny, Brad, Hannah, Hayden, Caden, and I stayed up till like 4 o'clock shooting the shit. And we talked about tools and we talked about settings and we talked about business and we talked about the industry and all of those types of things. Like you're never going to have those conversations on site. You're going to have
No.
those conversations when you're all together on your downtime. And I
Hmm.
mean, you can talk to people that have hosted these things that will tell you if it comes down to money, you are not winning hosting a collab site. Money. But if you're looking at making connections and like learning and all the things that maybe you aren't so good at, but you've got 4 people on site that are, that's where you get your benefit from. It's like taking a course, right? You got to pay for a
Hmm.
course. You got to,
Hmm.
you know,
Absolutely, man.
it's the same shit.
Which eventually equates to money in the future, if
It
that's what you're chasing.
certainly has for me.
Hmm. No, that's really cool. There's a lot of that stuff. Are you on TikTok?
Ugh, I have a TikTok. I deleted it, man. Like TikTok ended up being this weird thing for me. The
Yep.
um the Gilberts did this game show one time, and to go live, you need 1,000 followers. And I was like, okay, well, that won't be so bad, I guess. And it was a grind. Like once I had to do it by a date, it wasn't fun anymore. And I think that
Yeah.
fucking ruined TikTok for me. Like I remember on my personal, like on my page on Instagram, I pulled out like pictures of me when I was jacked from working out, going follow my TikTok because I was like needed followers, dude. I was fucking being slimy about it.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that is like, okay, cool. Oh, here's so and so's content. Oh, look, this guy's cooking in the woods with a frying pan and a sharp knife. Oh, this fucking guy's opening Pokemon cards for an hour. Like there was like a
This guy's
mil.
building a pool out of mud in the middle of the woods.
I've spent hours watching those fucking people. They have a stick
Yeah.
of bamboo and they make a fucking trench from the river over into this fucking 2 bedroom fucking bamboo hut
Yep.
shit. I just can't do it. I just don't have the time. And the problem is I was finding the time and it was taking away from so much else. Like
Yep.
TikTok
Something productive.
fully understands what I'm looking for and what I'm interested in almost right away. And
Yeah.
it was shocking because right about the time that I'm like, I should fucking get off of this and go do my laundry or whatever, I would go to the next video and it would be something that's like, oh no, I gotta watch this. And
And
it's
it's
like
3 a.m. You haven't done shit. You got to work in the morning.
they're watching you. And it was perfect. And
That
I loved it. And I had to get rid
I
of it. It was bad.
I got a TikTok shortly after Instagram, and I ended up deactivating it because I didn't understand it. I don't like the app.
Right.
Everybody that followed me seemed to be people that are not interested in drywall. I mean, just based on their profile.
Hmm.
It's like you're not following me. Why are you following me? Somebody with squiggly line names and they're like, into. I mean, they're clearly not drywallers.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a lot more fake people, and I couldn't figure out how to use the app, so I deactivated it. But I decided, I don't know why, to reactivate it a few days ago, and what I wanted to do was use my CSR affiliate link
Oh,
on
nice.
that.
Yeah.
So I started to like, all right, how do I put my link on this damn page? And I couldn't figure it out. And then I looked up something, and it said, oh, you need to be a business account. Oh,
Ah.
okay. I'll just switch to business account. Oh, wait, to be a business account, you need 1,000 followers. Oh, fuck. All right. So I'm transferring shit over from Instagram, trying to get followers, and I post one thing, I got like 20,000 views, and I post something else, and it's something that did really well on Instagram is
Hmm.
like nothing on TikTok. I can't figure it out. So I called somebody up. I asked them, Oh, you need to have music to that. I'm like, oh, all right. So I put music on it. Boom, shoots up in views. Great. I'm almost at 1,000 followers. I get 999. One more. I could go to business account. Bam, 1,000 followers. Right now, I'm boom, switch over to business account. Now I can put my link in. So I did that. And then I got a notification that says, "Oh wait, you're not fully a business account because I don't know if this is different in Canada, if this is just a United States thing, but it said in order to be a business account, you have to be verified, which means you need to fill out all this stuff to prove you're a business."
That makes
So now they're
sense.
asking me for proof that I'm a business. All right, so I dug out my county business tax license and I sent that to them. No, decline. You need to have your federal identification number. I'm not sending my IRS paperwork to some Chinese app. No, not happening.
Pass. Yeah.
So then I tried to take off business account and it wouldn't let me. I said, all right, I'll put another video up. I need because I'm trying to do one a day to get all my Instagram stuff over to it.
Right.
Go to put another thing on there. All my videos get like declined because oh, now that I'm a business, I can only use commercial music that's
Right.
available for free. And all the song choices are shit. And there's only like a few to choose. Oh, this is fucking garbage. So I switched from business back to personal, but for some reason my link still works
Well,
that I can
it's a
only get
loophole.
by being a business. But I can't figure the damn app out, dude. It's like I put one video up that does amazing on Instagram. There's like no damn views. So it's like, what am I gonna do? I gotta change every video now? I thought everybody that has these multiple social media platforms, they're making and editing one video and uploading it to each thing. I'm not making two, three different videos of the
That's
same
the
thing,
thing. Is
you
it
know?
even if you took the raw footage of what you did that day, you've got to make a geared towards Instagram video and then a geared towards Facebook and a geared towards TikTok. And I'm just not doing it. I,
No.
I mean, in the beginning, I wanted to have like 1,000 followers just to say that I got the 4 digits and like that would be enough. I always found the more followers people have, the more shitheads are on there, the more people that are looking for free stuff, the more people that are going to send you some dickhead message because they think they're, you know what I mean? So I've tried very hard to keep my following pretty small because when you message me or somebody messages me, short of like working my ass off or being with my kids, I hit that right away. I'm like, yeah, what's up, man?
Mhm.
You can't do that with 20,000 followers. How? You're
Well,
not
and
even going to
luckily,
get to it.
Instagram, I really like how most of their bullshit messages go to that spam folder or whatever
The
the hell it's called.
request. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm lucky I don't have to deal with that, but I will say that the most important thing for me, I mean, a lot of people are chasing massive follower numbers, and I get it because they're trying to make money or whatever it is, but I just want real people that are interested in because like I said, my start on Auto Tools was all Instagram Reels. That's how I learned. And then I got Instagram and I learned how unbelievably fake a lot of these people are because I based everything off of these videos. And then I come to find out that this thing you're telling me to buy isn't even what you normally use. You're
yeah.
just, it's like, dude, I want real people. That's what I need. And if I got 1 million followers and only fucking 10 of them are like actual people I talk to every day, like me and you talk quite often. I mean, I got people that I'm close with and people that ask questions and appreciate the advice.
I love that.
And like TikTok is full of haters, dude.
Hmm.
All my comments are, why are you doing it that way? As if you knew anything about the job from this 3 second clip. It's
Right.
just, there's no, it's not for me. I might delete it. I don't know.
It's a
But like
time
you said,
suck.
you don't care about the followers. That's the important thing is
I,
real people, real connections, and no bullshit.
I very quickly figured out once you get past the romance of it all, you take a look at it as a finisher. You know, if you've got somebody on there that's got 4 different brands of tools and every other day they're telling you that the different brand is the one that you should be buying because they're being paid for it or they've been sent something like eh, I I don't know, man. My hashtag buy Columbia tools is because I fucking want you to do that because it's working for me. Is it the right thing? Is it the best thing? I don't know, but it's what works for me. And if you ask me a question about that, I can answer it. If you're asking me the difference between boxes and all this other kind of shit from different brands, I don't fucking know. Go ask somebody that knows that because I don't, and I'm so much happier doing that than doing something else. And like, what does it really get you? Like, how many free fucking tools do you need? And like, how much clout do you need as a person? And my answer is fucking zero. Like, if this all went
Well,
away tomorrow, I'd be good.
the thing is, I do get quite a bit of messages from other companies. Some are tool companies, some have nothing to do with drywall that ask me to uh they're going to send me something, try it out, do a review, post some
Hmm.
content, and some of them want this many posts a week, this many things, and whatever. And I'm not going to mention the names of these companies, but it, if I liked your tool, I've been doing drywall 23 years,
Yeah,
23.
you'd
If
be
I
using it.
liked your tool, I would already own it. I wouldn't need it for free. And some of these other companies, like I got a message the other day from somebody wanting me to, they want to send me work boots.
Nice.
I said, dude, for maybe it's nice, but for 15 years I've been doing my job in Adidas sneakers.
Yeah.
That's what I wear. And their message said, "We've been following your account very closely. We think you would be perfect. If you knew me at all, if you followed my account, you'd realize I'm wearing sneakers."
Yeah.
Another company wanted to send me socks, and I don't want to be one of those accounts that's just shoving shit down people's throats.
Eh,
Really, I mean, if you're chasing money, fine, do it. There's a market for it, but
so in the very beginning,
it's
I was super fortunate to have met Cam at Vegas. And we were kind of both getting onto the scene at the same time. And then as things started to like grow and like more opportunities came, like I was able to sit down and talk with him about it because he was in the same position that I was in about it. And it was like somebody started saying influencer, and his response to it was content creator. Like, I create content. I'm not a fucking influencing anyone to do anything. I'm not interested in that. I don't care what t-shirts you wear. I don't care what soda pop you drink. Like, this brand of Doritos chips is not for everyone, and I'm not going to tell you it is. Like, I have no interest in telling people what to do because I'm not that person. Like, I'm not looking.
I will if they ask.
Oh, totally. If you want to ask me what I think and get my 2 cents on something, I got nothing but time for that. But like,
Right.
Troll Clothing is another one of these companies that reached out to me and is like, you seem to fit the fucking mold, dude. It would be cool if you rocked our gear. Cool. And there's a prerequisite of like, this is what you will do a month, and we'll send you more shit. And I'm happy to do it because it's good quality shit.
Yeah,
I
but you
like
like
it.
you like the product.
That's right.
It's not some shit you're doing just to get the product. Because if you liked it, you already have it,
Yeah.
right?
And that's how well, the Gilberts kind of vouched for me, I think, is how that whole thing happened. But I had bought a hat because somebody that I followed had a discount code and it looked like a cool hat. I think it might even be right here. Yeah. Blue collar as fuck. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to own that hat. And then
Mm-hmm.
I posted it in a story, I think with Nate. And then in a couple of days, they reached out and I thought that it was like me. And then of course it turns out that it wasn't. Like the girls helped me out with that, which was great. Um, but what it wasn't was, I want something and don't want to buy it myself, so I'm gonna try and figure out how to get it for free. And it definitely wasn't, somebody wants to pay me $100 to do something like that I don't believe in because I'm just not doing that. And somebody at an event somewhere, I never ever have to worry that I go to one of these events and somebody goes, "You told me to buy that fucking thing and it was a piece of shit and you
Right.
fucking
Right.
knew that it was. Why did you do that?" Nobody's ever going to have to do that with me. Now, if you're listening from the very beginning when I didn't know what I was fucking talking about, that's different. But I was always very clear that I don't know what I'm talking about. This is what I'm doing today in my first month or year or whatever. Yeah, I don't know, man. That like the more followers you have, the more opportunities you're going to get to be doing stuff. But if it's not what you believe in, what are you doing it for? Like nobody's cutting $10,000 checks, man. Right? So what are you
But I mean,
worth?
our money comes from our jobs,
For sure.
doing drywall. That's how we make money. But it is nice to get a little thank you for the people that you support.
For sure.
It's not needed. It's appreciated, but it has to be the stuff that I want, that I
Hmm.
that I use. Like I use Columbia tools. I use, what? And the other thing too is most of the stuff I use so very few brands out there. I mean, we all use Columbia, but there's a lot of stuff Columbia doesn't make. So,
Yep.
I mean, anything power tool related, I use Milwaukee tools.
Yep.
Anything, my tool belt, Occidental Leather, my Stilter Sherpro, there's very few brands that I use, and a lot of them either don't have a social media presence at all. So every time I tag them, it does nothing. They
Hmm.
don't even see the message, or they don't have an affiliate program or anything like that. So which is kind of why most of my posts where I'm going to tag somebody is Columbia because they're responsive to that. They share the stories, whatever.
Yep.
Um, Serpro too, but other than that, I mean, there's really I just use too few things and I'm happy with them. And whether they're going to share my stuff or not, I don't care because I'm still going to go buy Milwaukee tools. You know what I mean? But they're not going to do anything with it. But that's not why I do it. I see a lot of videos where they push things and there's so many sponsored ads from these other companies that they're not very good. Some of these companies are using really crappy contractors to showcase their stuff, and it's like, yeah, maybe to a DIYer this looks good, but to anybody who's a professional is not going to buy this because of this ad. I don't want to be that guy in that ad, you know?
The other part of that, again, I don't want to call anybody out, but yeah, everybody's going to know what we're talking about. But there is a brand out there that sees this person is not running auto tools. I'm going to send them a full set of auto tools and, we're going to have them rocking our shit or whatever. But on the other end of that, putting out a national marketing campaign showing somebody that's just starting to use the tools is doing them a huge disservice because
Mm-hmm.
now you have veterans looking at them going, the fuck are you doing? Why are you even doing this?
Mm-hmm.
You should quit your job. They're just started. They just started. And you took that and you shoved it down everyone's throat, and it's not perfect because they just started, but you're putting them out there as some fucking veteran that's just started touching the tools, man. Like Columbia Tools would never do that. I from the very beginning was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, and this is going to be a fun process. And they jumped on board for some fucking reason, and it worked out great for both of us. But it certainly wasn't. This is a new face that I think is going to be very high in views one day, and I'm going to like abuse that because I think a lot of tool companies are doing that. We don't even want you to jump ship. We just want you to use our stuff for a month and make some videos that looks like you're doing a good job or you're happy using our tools or whatever. And then what? Like you as a person, you're not integrity, but kind of goes down the fucking drain because it's like, is this even what you're doing? Is this what you use? And for what? Like how much
Mm-hmm.
money could they have possibly paid you? And a lot of the times it's nothing. It's just
Mm-hmm.
tools, and the fucking tools are no good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. Now, on the same hand, I don't know if you saw, I posted on my stories the other day, way back in the day, I got a Chevy Spark. It's the size of a kitchen table. And I had a
All
bunch
those
of,
tools that,
yes.
yeah, I saw that.
So
I see
that,
all your stories, man. I like them all.
yeah. So my original tool belt that I love has a magnet right here on the
Mm-hmm.
strap. And then I can grab a handful of screws, slap it on me, and I know that they're there. I don't have to have a handful of screws ever. And so I posted
Or a
it.
mouthful.
Yeah, or then you got like metal shavings in your fucking lips. Like it's not a
Yeah.
good deal. They just reached out the other day and were like, "Hey, we just saw this. We just started our whatever XYZ, and we're gonna send you all the shit that we have. Is that cool with you?" I was like, "Yeah," because I use your shit and I'm enjoying
Uh-huh.
it. I now I told them it's pretty fucking beat up now, dude. Like it's a 4-year-old pouch
Yeah.
that was like $150. Like
Yeah.
it's not a forever pouch, but yeah, they're going to send me more stuff. And I like that kind of stuff where
Mm-hmm.
people are like, hey, like you said, your Adidas shoes. If Adidas reached out and was like, hey, man, we noticed that your shoes are getting a little scuffy, but we like that you're using them. Let me send you shoes. You would have no problem with that because it's what you
No, I
do.
would. I would. I honestly would. That's just me. It's
Yeah.
not, I'm making videos of drywall. I don't want to showcase shoes.
Yeah.
That's just me,
Good
you know?
call.
Because then, I mean, the people, my account, I'm trying to make it geared toward,
Hmm.
which is why I went a lot back and forth with that stupid monkey video that I posted because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's unique, it's out there, right? But is this really what I want my account to be? But I mean, I don't know.
Some of the
The shoes,
silly,
yeah, yeah, just send me free shoes, but I don't know that I would make a big deal out of it.
no, but that's what I mean. If they were just like, just wear them, like just whatever, like you don't have to do anything
Yeah.
for it, you do that. Like, or I would do that anyways. But I mean, like the monkey video and like the kissing the wall to fucking do the screw spot, that kind of stuff, like silly videos, I think are amazing if it's coming from a place of talent outside of that. Like Aaron doing the Brazilian video of the fucking predator and Caden
That and his
dies.
video of him pretending to be Phil,
It's amazing
that was a
because,
riot.
but it comes from a place of like top tier shit,
Right.
right? And I'm doing this for everyone's entertainment.
Yeah.
They are not dancing monkeys, right?
I like
They're
to hope that it'll attract people to my page to see my other stuff.
exactly.
But that monkey video, I was so sure that was gonna get views, and it fucking didn't. I'm like, what the hell?
Really?
I figured this would be like, everybody would. I don't know. It didn't. And then that stupid kiss in the wall, that screw spotting
I
video,
thought it was perfect.
uh, that had a shitload of views. But I finally get now why, you go see a band you like, and you want them to play that one hit song, the song that they have to play every fucking night for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
You love it. They hate it, right?
Yeah.
We got much better shit. Why are you requesting this song? That's that fucking video to me. Because every
Yeah.
time I go somewhere, my wife is like, "Oh, show them that video shot." I'm like, I don't want to hear that fucking video again. This is not the right way to spot screws. Like, I never want to see that again. But it got me followers. It got me people to see the other. Say TikTok, I did say has a lot of haters on it.
Mm.
But there are a lot of people private messaging me questions and asking that people. It seems like they're people doing their own projects and they're asking certain questions, and I like to feel that I've helped some people, so that's
Hmm.
super cool to me.
As long
Um,
as you aren't saying things that you don't believe to be true in life, you're pretty well good.
yeah,
Like,
I would say
and if somebody's asking for your opinion, you just got to make it clear that it's not the facts, it's my opinion, and that's all you
right.
can do, man. Like, I've given people lots of advice and it's always ended with, but that's just what I do. Like, this is not, I'm not proclaiming this is the way to do anything. And the guys and the girls that are saying this is how it needs to be done, it's like you are so far outside of like the ego that has to come with something like that, where you have perfected the art of drywall and the rest of the planet should be doing it your way because you're so fucking smart. Like, that's real hard to swallow sometimes, man. Like, I don't know. It's having a solid process, yes. And if somebody asks you how you do it or whatever, but like proclaiming that no one should use a 10-inch box on their coats because I don't is ridiculous, right? Because it's not the case. It's what works for me, and I've got a million reasons why I do it the way that I do it. And short of like telling that whole story, it's just what you do, right? Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is, I kind of hit a point where I was like, I don't like what's happening anymore because there was a lot of negativity coming into the space. Like this was probably year two, when I started doing the Columbia months and all that kind of stuff. There was like negativity coming, and I need to avoid that like the plague because I
Yeah,
have to stay positive, man. And if there's a bunch of trash coming my way, I've got to get rid of it because
that
it
was Facebook for me.
Facebook was bad.
It's the worst. That's uh,
Yeah,
that's why I left there and I started Instagram because everything you post on Facebook, I never had a drywall account on Facebook. I was just in all those groups.
right.
And every time I would post something or see somebody else post something, it's like 150,000 comments of just you did this wrong or it's like who cares, man? And the funniest thing too is that you post something or somebody posts something, hey, this is the job I'm working on. You get all these people. Why'd you do this? Something off in the side of the photo. It's not even the foreground or the point of the post. Oh, I see that over there. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And you know, the only reason we do drywall is for a check. It's
Mhm.
income. That's why we do this. That's the only reason anybody goes to work every day is for a check. Now,
Right.
this guy who posted his work and this guy who says it's wrong, at the end of the day, they both get a check. Their customers are both happy. They're both on to the next job. The fucking job is painted. It's fine. So what the hell does it matter? Like just like the damn thing or move on. Because and in some cases, the guy everybody's jumping down their throat about, he he could be making more money than all the rest of the guys that are talking shit about him. So like just shut up. You don't like the
In
post, move on.
in
Not
the
that I
back,
haven't commented on other people's posts before in the past, but I try not to.
yeah. I actually I've had to bite my lip a bunch of times because I'll see somebody running a box a certain way, and then you almost want to reach out and be like, "Hey, man, if you kind of did this one little thing, it wouldn't do that other
Yeah,
thing." But then I know that that'll be taken as
exactly,
I'm
exactly.
telling them what to do, and I'm not into it, right? Like, yeah, it's a tough thing.
That's when you private message somebody.
Yes, yeah, and I
Hey,
don't
I saw
even
your
do
work.
that.
You're off to a good start. You ever try this? Because I'm considering trying it myself, even though that's how I fucking do it. That's how you're supposed to do it.
It's
And make no
approaching it
mistake, make
properly.
no mistake. You talk about not everybody's way is the right way, but let me just clear the air here. My fucking way is the right way.
Yep, because it
I'm
works.
just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Um, going back to those people that are fucking shitty in the comments, I had to come to the realization that I don't have 4 hours a day to go through other people's shit to tell them what they're doing wrong because I'm busy working.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? These people that are sitting around being shitty, again, my opinion is because they're not fucking working. And they're like, "Oh, this person sucks and I would have done a better job if I got that job." It's like, "Yeah, but you fucking didn't. You suck and have a shit attitude and that's why you're not working. Period."
Or
You might
not only that, but like one of the videos, I think Columbia sent out an automatic taper to somebody to try, and they were using it in the video. I'm not going to mention the name, but they started the video with, "This is our first time using this. We're going to
right.
try it, see how it goes." They struggled with it because it was the first time they used it. And all the comments are, "What are you doing? What is this, your first day?" Like they literally just fucking said, "This is our first day." And we're trying the tool. We're clearly so why are you gonna jump down somebody's throat, calling them all these names and talking all this shit when everybody's got to start somewhere? And they
Yeah.
introduced the video as this is the like, it's just
It
so stupid, man. Like,
it was my saving grace that at the beginning of everything I was super clear that it was
yeah,
not my wheelhouse. Like this
I
is
never
the
saw any of that.
yeah, it was pretty bad.
I started following you and got to know you after you had been doing it for a while, and that's why I was so surprised that you've been doing it for. You could have fooled me. I mean, your
Yeah.
shit looked fine. I'm getting better. I'm like, what the fuck? It's fine. What the fuck are you talking about? You're getting better. It's mint.
Yeah, but
Sand
if
it.
if
Like,
you if you watched it 2 years ago, it's better, and it was not good before. And like there's a part of it that's humble where it's like I'm never going to be like fucking nailed the taper today because I'm not running it the way Danny does. Like I'm not using my broad knives the way Phil does. I'm not running my boxes the way Brad does. Like do you know what I mean? Like there
hmm
are there are things where it's like to go out there and proclaim yourself as the best, that's a big mouthful. And then you're gonna hear about it, man, because you're fucking not. Like even the guys that are the best on Instagram aren't the best. Like on the planet, no way. There's some guy with 50 years experience
yeah, but
wrecking.
what is the best? Really? I mean, what do you consider
Yeah,
the best? How fast they get the job done? How clean it looks for Instagram? What is
yeah,
the best? Is
yeah,
it how much money they make a year? Because I mean, how do you classify the best?
yeah.
Who's happiest in their life and feels fulfilled and enjoys what they do? What is the best?
That
I mean,
that is always my judge of character, is how happy are you? Like I don't care what you do. I don't care what you wear. I don't care if you're a guy or a girl or if you're anything. Like anything that makes people different is not how I judge people. I judge people on how happy they are as a human being. And if that means you're making 40 grand a year and seeing your kids every day and picking them up from school and doing all that other kind of shit, I would fucking love that. I just can't afford to do it. Like if you're happy being fat and eating garbage, good. But if you are fat and eating garbage and going, "Oh, I'm overweight and I'm not happy," that's a fucking problem. And I'm gonna judge you for it. If you've got a
Hmm.
problem with something, go fix it. And because you're the only person that can, if you're working too many hours or not enough hours, or oh, I'm at home for the third week in a row. Great. What have you done to get more? Like, you seem like a fucking genius at finding work if you're all over the place. Like going into a supplier and going, "I'd like a list of the people that buy the most board," and calling them, genius. Who's doing that? Right? But you're also not sitting there going, "I don't have work," because you're putting in the effort to find the fucking work when you want it. Right? It's the same thing as, I'm not very happy with the way that I'm running my boxes. Great. What are you doing differently? Like, what are you
Hmm.
trying? Like, what are you I think people want to complain. I think people want to find an excuse as to why things aren't going their way and then ride it like a carpet into the night. Like it doesn't do anybody a service except make everyone else think maybe something different than what's going on. But in your life, it's not different because you're not doing anything different. Putting a mask on and calling yourself a cat doesn't mean you're a fucking cat.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
and it's a weird world too, man, because some people come from money and some people are things outside of work too, right? Like they don't, but they want that cloud and they want free stuff and they want followers, and that's all fine. But it's just not what I do. And it's not what I'm
Hmm.
interested in, right? So for me to try and tell those people what they should be interested in is silly. It's you can't control people. And if you don't like somebody, fucking don't talk to them.
Hmm.
Like I am very good at deleting people from my universe. Like this is not fucking working for me. If you need closure on that, I'm happy to do that. But this is not my positive and your negative don't fucking match. And I'm sorry or
Well,
whatever.
so far I haven't had to do that.
Which is
So,
good,
um,
man. I mean, but like you said, you've geared your page towards the right thing that you want, and it's working. Like, you know, trying to get a huge following and then having to deal with all the bullshit that you don't want to deal with would be crazy for somebody like you because it's not what you want. So why would you do
mhm.
it? Yeah.
I mean, going back to the best, I
Hmm.
mean, as long as you're trying to be the best that you can be, I think that's the goal. Because I don't know what the best is, but if you try your best, if you walk away proud and happy with what you put out there, I think that's the goal, right?
I have walked away
Because if
from
you,
sites that I've lost my ass on and gone, I did that to the best of my ability and I'm
hmm.
happy.
Hmm.
What were you going to say?
And
Sorry.
sometimes people will never know that, but you do. That's what's important.
Yeah, man. How do you sleep at night? You know,
Some
are you,
people do. Some people sleep perfectly well knowing they just ripped some old lady off a deposit and
that's
freaking,
true.
some people do, but I don't know. Hey, dude, my earbuds are about to die. I keep getting a low battery.
Yep, brilliant. I think we're 2 hours. Like this is a long
Mhm.
one, dude. Yeah.
I just got to say
Um,
one more thing real
mhm.
quick. In your stories, I always have a good morning when I wake up and I hear you say good morning. Okay. But sometimes I have a little trouble falling asleep at night. So it'd be nice if you could start doing good night
Good
posts.
night, dude.
No, I'm just
We'll
fucking
get
with
Nate or somebody doing that.
you. Yeah, yeah. All right,
Okay,
man.
so where can everybody find you? What are you
Don't
on?
don't don't
You don't
fucking
want to do it?
come looking for me. Find
Yeah,
me on Instagram. Arey Drywall, Instagram.
there you go.
Find me, but leave me alone.
Yeah, short of that, leave me alone. Well,
pretty
it was a
much.
pleasure, man. I've wanted to have you on here, and this was dope. It was cool to hang out
Anytime,
with you, man.
anytime, buddy.
All right, everybody, be humble, treat everyone the same, and do your fucking job.